It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who, at the best, knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
We don't have a great day. We have to make it a great day. Now go out there and make it a great day.
Sometimes I'm right, and I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then it makes no difference what group I'm in. 'Cause I am everyday people. There is a blue one that can't accept the green one for living with the fat one, trying to be a skinny one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on. And Scooby-Dooby-Dooby-Doo, shout. We gotta live together. I am no better, and neither are you. We are the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me and then still can't figure out the bag I'm in. 'Cause
I've become friends with school shooters. I've become friends with school shooters. I've become friends with school shooters.
Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani.
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran. So I'm
Senate Bill 38 going to the Texas House, and this bill seeks to keep squatters out of our house. Democrats have fought for 2 hours for the right, I don't even know how to say this, for the right of people that don't belong in your house to stay in your house. In the event that you leave for a month or two and a squatter goes in and takes your house over, Democrats are fighting for the ability of those people to be able to stay in your house. It's the most jacked up thing I've ever heard.
Do you believe right now Iran is in the planning or execution stages of cyber attacks against the United States?
Absolutely. I wish this wasn't the truth, but I believe within the next 30 days, you're going to see a massive cyber attack. All of the indications are there. Everyone's ganging up on Iran. You're seeing a lot of tension building, and they cannot compete on the military front. On the physical front, with airplanes, weapons, there's no way they can compete with the United States and Israel. But on cyber, they are very, very advanced. Remember, Stuxnet attacked their nuclear reactors. Yes, they were a victim, but when you're a victim of a cyber attack, you also get access to all the code. So they actually have all the code that was used to break into their nuclear reactor. They now took that and they can use that against us to break into our nuclear reactors.
Obama left office, he sent $1.7 billion in cash to Iran. The money was delivered in actual cash, stacked on pallets and flown into the country. It happened in January 2016 when Obama authorized the transfer of the money to the nation known for sponsoring terrorism. The funds were allegedly part of a long-standing financial obligation stemming from a pre-1979 agreement. Prior to the Iranian Revolution, the United States had committed to supplying Iran with military equipment. However, following the revolution, the transaction was abandoned, leaving Iran to claim reimbursement for the $400 million initially paid. With the accrued interest, this amount spiked to $1.7 billion. The Obama administration decided to resolve the debt. On January 17th of 2016, an aircraft arrived in Iran carrying $400 million in cash loaded onto pallets. The remaining balance of the $1.7 billion was delivered in subsequent shipments. Now, as Israel continues its attacks on Iranian nuclear and military sites, President Donald Trump is deciding how involved the United States will become in this war. Many pointing straight back to Obama as the reason Iran had the funding to continue paying for terror and start building up their nuclear programs.
I got what I deserve. Kept you waiting there too long, my love. All that time without a word. are you asking America for help? What the fuck? Aren't you guys the God-chosen people? Why do you need America? I thought you had God on your side. Satan. Why are you crying? Why are you crying? Oh yeah, I forgot. You're only good at killing children and women and unarmed men. Bombing hospitals, schools, mosques, churches, refugee camps. You're only good at starving people to death. Not letting them have any water, food, or electricity. Yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
I'm at the point now where I don't think I fought for the country. I fought for some politician's view on something. And I remember one dude in particular that I killed. Like, I shot his buddy, and then I came through his room. I killed him in front of his wife in a bedroom because he went for a gun. And I think about him now, and it's like, all right, why did I kill that guy? Well, because he went for a gun. Okay, but why did he go for a gun? Well, because I was in his fucking room at 2 a.m. Well, why was I in his room at 2 a.m? Well, because George fucking Bush was pissed that Saddam Hussein allegedly wanted to kill his dad, so we invaded. And then I start to think, was this guy funny? What if I met him in Paris over a coffee? Would we have actually liked each other and I just kill him because a politician sent us here for weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist?
Right? And you might save thousands or hundreds of lives. So please just be vigilant. This is a time for us as Americans to stop tearing each other apart, liberals different and Democrats versus Republicans and conservatives and Christians. We need to come together as Americans right now because they don't care about where your ideology lies. They hate you fundamentally because you represent something they absolutely loathe, and that is freedom. And they don't want that. We are infidels at the end of the day. And we must understand that this threat is real. They mean what they say, and they will do exactly what they're telling us and telling you they're going to do. Period. That's
so we
it.
are now, the terrorist cells here have been activated, and you're saying we're now in that window, anything can pop off.
100%.
Wow.
If you think what's happening between Israel and Iran is just over there and doesn't affect you, I want to tell you why what's happening in the Middle East right now may have a big effect on your life. It's about global stability and about stopping a North Korea 2.0 from developing in the Middle East. Here's the deal. Iran has been inching closer and closer to a nuclear bomb, not just nuclear energy. This is a regime that openly funds terror, that propagates the ideas of death to America and death to Israel, death to Western civilization, actively colonizes parts of the Middle East and oppresses so many people. They had a plan to openly annihilate the state of Israel using nuclear weapons. Remember the fact that Israel doesn't just contain home to Jewish people, it is also the home to 2 million Arabs, Muslims, Christians, Druze. If you fire a rocket into Tel Aviv or into Jerusalem or into Haifa, you're not just hurting Jews. There is a very big chance that you're going to also injure people of other ethnic minorities. This is not about land. This is not an extension of the Israel-Palestine conflict. This is an existential threat that can hurt all of humanity. And while America isn't officially pulling the trigger, I want you all to remember this in the West. If you feel like this isn't your war, you don't want to get involved with Israel's war in the Middle East, remember that the IRGC of Iran, they call America the big devil and Israel the little devil. Israel is just in the way of them wanting to take over and attack the West. The second that they attain nuclear power, don't think for 1 second they will not use that to threaten you. And if Israel's gone, their proxies will come after you, and then their nuclear weapons. This isn't about starting a war. This is about avoiding a much, much larger one.
Every time we're on the verge of victory, somebody in the military-industrial complex invents some escalation of something so that we can just go to war. The answer always seems to be, let's go to war, or let's support a war, or let's enable a war. And the bulwark to that has been the president. If we go to war, this totally screws everything up. You could see oil double. What happens to the economy of the world, of world GDP, of everything, of inflation, if you have oil at $100 a barrel, $112 a barrel? It's not good. So you have to wonder, why would people want this escalation? Who wants this escalation? And you see that it's deeply beneficial for America to avoid anything calamitous happening here. So I hope we find an off-ramp, and I hope that the president gets his way.
Told me long ago, there's a calm before the storm. I know it's been coming for some time. are places I remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone, and some remain. All these places have their moments. With lovers and friends, I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. Oh, I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. In my life, I love you more.
God does not plant dreams in your heart without the intention to bring them to life. If you have felt the calling, if you have sensed the shift, if you have seen the signs, then know this: what is coming is far greater than what you are leaving behind. There will be days when your faith is tested, when doubts creep in, when circumstances seem unchanged. But remember, the unseen is always at work before the seen takes form. The moment you desire something in your heart, the universe begins moving to bring it to you. The delay is not denial, it is a divine process ensuring that everything falls into place at the right time. You may notice that your intuition becomes sharper. You feel nudges, whispers, guiding you toward new choices. The same places and conversations that once seemed normal may begin to feel off, as if you no longer belong in them. You will be drawn to new ideas, books, messages, and even people who align with the vision that is unfolding within you. You may start waking up in the middle of the night, feeling an unshakable energy, as if something is being downloaded into your spirit. Pay attention, for these are not accidents. They are divine signals, preparing you for what is to come. There is a shedding that must take place. The old version of you cannot walk into the new reality that God has prepared. The doubts, the fears, the limiting beliefs must be released. The way you spoke, the way you thought, the way you carried yourself, if these things no longer align with the higher version of you, they must go. This is why discomfort comes before the blessing. This is why everything seems to be shaken before the breakthrough happens. The shaking is necessary. It is stripping away everything that does not serve your next level. You may feel exhausted, as if something within you is changing on a deep level. You may experience moments of loneliness, even sadness, because transformation is not always comfortable. The people who once fit in your life may start drifting away. The conversations that once interested you may now feel meaningless. Do not resist this process. Embrace it. What is meant for you cannot miss you, and what is leaving you was never meant to stay. The greatest sign that something big is coming is the deep peace that settles within you, even when the circumstances have not changed. This is the moment when you know, not because you see it, but because you feel it. You no longer look outside for validation. You do not ask others if they believe in your vision. You simply know. And this knowing is the evidence that your manifestation is near. It will not come through force. It will not require you to chase or struggle. It will flow to you effortlessly at the appointed time. And when it does, you will realize that it was never about just receiving something external. It was about becoming the person who was ready to hold it.
It's been a year and a half since the devastating fires wiped out over 2,000 homes in Lahaina, Maui. And as of June 2025, only 6 have been rebuilt. Let that sink in. 6 homes. After the deadliest fires in modern Hawaiian history. You'd think the response would be urgent, aggressive, unstoppable, but it's been the exact opposite. The official excuse? Permitting delays, legal hurdles, complex zoning rules. The Hawaiian Supreme Court even ruled in February 2025 to delay the release of key settlement funds. Translation? The money is there, but the people who need it still don't have it. According to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, only 800 of 1,600 properties were cleared of debris by April. Half in over a year. Meanwhile, families are still displaced. Businesses are gone. The land sitting empty. And here's what they won't say out loud. This isn't about lack of resources. It's about bureaucracy, inefficiency, and intentional gridlock. The National Institute of Standards and Technology confirms that in places like Hawaii, restrictive zoning and outdated permitting laws can delay rebuilding by 50 to 70%. So while the media says Maui strong, the reality is Maui stalled. This isn't what disaster recovery looks like. This is what system failure looks like. Compare that to Florida after Hurricane Ian. Over 1,000 homes rebuilt in less time. Why is paradise being left to rot? Is it mismanagement?
A while back with Jesse Anon with dropping in the Q quote, "The world is watching," and that was also the delta of when it went down. And I said whether he slipped stuff in or he's presented stuff from the Q team to slip in, they're in the queues, folks. Hannity's in the queues, Bartiromo's in the queues, Ingram's in the queues. All these Fox people are in the queues, and Jesse is kind of like hinted at that he follows it with, he always says, oh, you know, the 17th floor, all this jazz. All right, so here's the video, okay, that we showed earlier on the show about the bunker buster bombs and things of that nature, in how he ended that segment with "The world is watching," okay? What Rebecca saw, and I'm going to try to play a little bit here. If you watch, see the B-2 dropping the bomb there? Okay. Boom, right? Okay. Q4740 has a link to military.com. What? It's the video that Jesse used.
What?
The B-2 stealth bomber. Watch it drop. It goes the bunker blaster and everything. So Jesse, in his show, grabbed the same video out of the Q post to bundle his story together. And here it is. Watch it go into the ground. Just like
wow. Jesse. You've got to be kidding me. While saying the whole world is watching. Come on.
And then
my goodness.
I put an extra slide together just so the comparison. So on the video I put on Twitter, you know, about the 46-second mark, There's the image in that video. Q4740 gets you a link, and that's what was in Q4740. Sure, it's all a coincidence. Thanks for the boomer there, yep. Rebecca.
Becca's getting a boom on that one, dude.
It's rare that I'm speechless. But I want to be sure I understood. The people running the Department of Energy for President Biden's administration shoveled $93 billion, not million, $93 billion out the door in 76 days, and it just happened to be the time between when President Trump was elected and President Biden, their boss, was leaving. Is that right?
It is correct and distasteful. Confidence undermining.
My God.
Wash away my troubles, wash away my pain with the rain and Shambhala. Wash away my sorrow, wash away my shame with the rain and Shambhala.
standing outside the Row Hotel. This is a hotel that's been housing migrants for the past 4 years. This hotel has over 1,500 rooms. It's averaged about $7 million a month is what the city has been paying for migrants to live inside this shelter. This shelter is still housing people. There are many migrants still here. I kind of wonder if these migrants that are living in this shelter live in a little bit of fear that they might be deported. We've talked to a lot of migrants today, and they say that many people have actually gone back to their home country. A lot of people say they went back to Venezuela or they've moved out of New York City. Many people say they went to California and Connecticut. People are trying to get out of New York City, but there are still probably over 1,000 people still being housed in this shelter right here. And like I said, it costs taxpayers $7 million a month. This is the Row Hotel. It's been housing people for over 4 years. At the height of the crisis, there were over 200,000 illegal immigrants living here in New York City, and we were paying for it. We are paying for everything. Their housing, their food, their medical insurance, their schooling, for everything. The Row Hotel right now is still in operation.
I don't think you watch Fox News. I heard Ted Cruz say that the Iranians are going to nuke LA.
Well, as of right now, they don't have a nuclear bomb. One interesting thing is Iran has not developed missiles that go beyond a certain range. Doesn't mean they can't, but they have been hesitant to up until this point because they don't want to be seen as threatening countries outside their region.
So why is Ted Cruz saying they're going to nuke LA?
I think, and again, I've been a big Ted Cruz fan over the years. I've come to, respect him on many levels. I think he is repeating a talking point that, to help raise the level in people's minds, the level of threat that Iran actually imposed. Let's
in order to justify American involvement in regime change.
Correct. Let's be.
Hi. Hi.
Nice to see you. John Wall from CNN.
You don't have a mask on anymore. What's going
we're
on?
outside. Do you have a minute to chat?
Well, we're 6 feet apart.
Do you have a minute to chat?
I'll do an interview.
Okay.
As long as it airs on CNN Plus. Does that still exist? Yeah. I didn't think so, because the people don't like what you guys are peddling, which is propaganda. Thank you.
What do you know about this? You're there in LA. What's happening?
I think the problem is people don't understand how to identify the different federal agencies. Everybody sees any sort of police officer and they immediately think it's ICE. It was Border Patrol out there. You can see it clear as day. Bright gold lettering, Border Patrol on their green vest. They typically wear green. What happened with that was, if you listen to the local media and activists out here, they made it sound like the feds were showing up to Dodger Stadium to try to start arresting Dodgers fans as they were showing up for the game that night. Not the case at all. What I'm told from my contacts is this was just a group of a few CBP and Border Patrol officers. They had just run an operation in Hollywood. They needed a place to stage and regroup. Literally only 4 or 5 of them pulled up near the parking areas of Dodger Stadium just to regroup themselves. Activists found them, said it was ICE, put it out on social media. Then the media helicopters started flying all over the place. Then the headlines come out and the narrative is, oh, ICE is hitting Dodger Stadium. Not the case at all.
Wow, a rumor can spread quickly.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen happen in LA last couple of weeks, and that's kind of what started some of those riots we saw a couple of weeks ago.
Because if it were, you would be keeping these women in. Instead, you are the one injecting culture wars into the military, and it's at the detriment of our military readiness and national security. Now, General Kane, I'd like to turn to you.
So to be clear, these are men who think they're women.
These are women. I'm happy to educate you on
but these are men,
on trans issues at another
what we've
time.
identified is that there's mental health issues with that belief system.
I'd like to turn to General
are detrimental to readiness, and that's the determination that we've made and that we stand behind. Gender dysphoria.
And so you don't.
It looks like he's preparing for any scenario. The E-4B Doomsday plane just made an unexpected flight to D.C. The $500 million aircraft was designed to withstand nuclear blasts and keep top government officials safe when threats are off the charts. And it landed at Joint Base Andrews under the cover of night on Tuesday. Right now, the United States has 2 destroyers anchored in the Mediterranean, the USS Sullivans and the USS Thomas Hudner. Both of these $100 million platforms have been shooting down Iranian missiles. To the south is a carrier strike group, the USS Carl Vinson in the Arabian Sea just off the coast of Iran, flanked by 4 warships providing security to U.S. bases in the region, and a super carrier, the USS Gerald Ford. It's on its way and should be on the scene soon. Dozens of F-16s have been repositioned from Italy to the Saudi Arabia base, and F-22s and F-35s are on their way. Now, if we're going to drop bunker busters on the Iranian nuke site, it'll be done by B-2 stealth bombers. These aren't officially in the region, but sources tell Primetime they've seen tactical movement in the last 24 hours. This is a major moment for Trump, and he's aware that his legacy is on the line. Quote,
every day, the men and women of ICE are going to be in the neighborhoods of this nation arresting criminal, illegal aliens, public safety threats, and national security threats. Lawrence, you're not going to stop us. We made a promise to the American people.
We love Canada and Mexico. If you're here illegally, you gotta go. He will send you home. Borders are Tom Holman. ICE is coming to your neighborhood. The laws are clear and they're understood. She will send you home. Homeland Security, Christine.
Legal correct path, they would have come here legally.
It started in the sex trafficking and the slavery, fentanyl and human smuggling, coyote convoys. They value life and the jobs protecting Americans, making America safe again. What we voted for, God bless ICE. God bless America. God bless President Trump. Come on.
What's the cheapest thing you have on the menu?
Rice.
I have like 10 or 12 bucks on my card
You say you have $10?
for this week.
Yeah, that's okay. People always walk in here to ask for food, and I know everybody's going through one thing or the other.
You own this business by yourself?
Right now, I put it out for rent.
Why?
Yeah, because I can't make up the bills.
Ola gave me food for free even though she was struggling, so I did this.
$1,000 cash. $1,000. Yes.
I think about some days that I just want to end it all. It's just my kids that keep me going. Please.
Okay,
I didn't do it for you to give me money, for real. I didn't do it for you to give me money.
But what Ola didn't know is that you raised her over $50,000. Let's go surprise her.
Ola.
Thank you. You are so
I don't
welcome.
know how to thank you.
I want to fix your ceiling. I want to fix your kitchen. I want you to be able to cook for your community. I have a friend I want you to meet.
How's it going? I'm Seamus. I own 4 Leaf Homes. I want to help you. Zach told me about your kitchen. I immediately knew I had to be here to give you a hand. You should have a beautiful kitchen to cook in, for sure. Can I give you a hug? You deserve it.
Can I give you one more gift?
Give me a dog. Food on my table for my kids. You've done so much for me. You don't know.
Can you put this on for me? Do you trust me? What's your dream for your kids?
I'm thanking them for putting their heart and soul to this restaurant, because some kids will be walking the street playing, go to the mall. They know that that is where we get money to feed, to pay the mortgage and everything. They are the reason why I'm still here.
Are you scared?
Yes.
Give you a hug first. I love you. 1, 2, 3.
What's this? Thank you.
You're so welcome. God bless you. Do you want to go see your car?
Oh my God.
Ola, you gave me lunch yesterday. I brought you a lunch.
Thank you.
That's $50,000 cash.
Oh my God.
I love you.
Me too. Thank you. Hallelujah.
And when people say, how are things going? You say, wonderful. You say, how's life? You say, terrific. You say, how's your relationships? Couldn't be better. How is your health? How are you feeling? I feel great. In other words, don't talk about negative things, because when you talk about negative things, you actually increase them and you draw more of them into your life. Look at the people that you know who have problems. You notice the people that you know who have problems all the time, never seem to solve their problems? Of people who talk about the problems all the time? To him that hath shall more be given. From him who hath not, even that which he has shall be taken away. Now, this is another critical point with regard to relationships. And I learned this again in my studies. It is that each of us has a certain amount of suffering that we've gone through, and people fall in love with their suffering. People love their suffering. As a matter of fact, they feel that they've paid for it, they've thought about it, they've lived with it for so long that most people are very reluctant to give up their suffering. You can't talk them out of it. You say, well, why don't you just forget it? Why don't you just put it behind you? Why don't you just get on with it? They say, well, I can't do that. Do you know how much I've suffered? Do you know how much emotional investment I've put into this relationship, this job, this career, and so on?
You were Donald Trump's butler for quite a long time. How many years did you work for him?
Almost 20, I guess. Trump is one of the nicest, most generous men that I've ever known in my life. After Mr. Trump and Ivana got a divorce, we were going over to his room one night, and he said, Tony, do I need 4 butlers? I said, as long as it's me, Mr. Trump, you only need 1.
Wow.
He said, get rid of the other 3. Man sleeps maybe 3 or 4 hours the most a night.
That's it.
That's it.
Because he says that now still
it's
today.
True.
And a lot of people don't believe him, but
it's true.
You would know.
Witness. Suit had to be pristine. And one time I took it down and they like wetted it so that the lapels were all forward. And he flipped out. Just flipped out. Off. He'll scream at you. You stand in the corner just seething. He's already forgotten it. Tony, bring me a cheeseburger. And it was, and don't forget the ketchup. If it's vegetables, he doesn't want to see them. So that's pretty much it. He's a red-blooded, meat-eating American, you know.
The butler says Barron may be more like his father than any of them.
Barron was 2.5 years old. I took his breakfast into him. He was sitting in his high chair, and he looks at me and he said, Tony, sit down. We need to talk.
Barron says this.
Barron said it, 2.5 years old.
just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land.
Friends, delegates, and fellow Americans, I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say,
I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to
Americanism,
me.
not globalism, will be our credo.
Next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
God bless you, Patriots. Welcome to Patriot News Broadcasting, and happy Friday. Happy Solstice Day as well, right? Do you guys remember that? First day of summer. Woohoo! It's pretty toasty out too, but I didn't stay out long. You know, I was sitting inside my house and I heard this little tappity tap 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 at my door. It was the neighbors with rabbits, baby rabbits. Their cat had gotten in a bunch of baby rabbits, I guess, and left 3 of them on the porch. 1 died. So I have 2 baby rabbits now. And I called this wildlife place trying to get some help and advice. And it's, you know, the place is like 50 miles north of me, and then it's 50 miles back. It's a bit of a trip. Like, you know, I could bring them to you in 4 days when I'm coming up there. And they're like, we need to see them now. It's illegal to have them. And like, you assholes. I guess I could have left them there for the cats, right? Shitty people sometimes. Then I called another woman that they said was licensed closer, and she said, oh, I don't take rabbits anymore. You should put them back where you find them and let nature take its course. Fucking people. Anyway, the name of the show, you know, I seen somebody had put it up today. I think it was Kyle. Eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. That's not what we want. That's not what we're shooting for. And it reminded me of what Derek was saying the other day about some of these people are just a little too gung-ho out to see some hangings and stuff. And I know we need our justice, but my eye is on the prize, which is the future. Yes, I'm wearing these plastic rings. They're cool. Can't have them. All right, Patriots, let's get into the news and do our thing, right? Oh, yeah, Solstice Day. We looked at Solstice Day. Happy Solstice Day. A couple posts from our president. We know who is responsible for Iran's nuke program. Yeah, that's not at all what that money had anything to do with, but I like how he mixed 2 points together, you know, the whole $1.7 billion from Obama and the nuke program. The nuke program's a joke. It's, you know, Iran is a deep state tool. The Ayatollah is, you know, bed buddies with Israel, bed buddies with the deep state, bed buddies with the bankers. You got to look at it in that light. But anyway, I like his hunted to the hunter plan there. A couple other things from Trump I wanted to look at. 0 border crossings for the month for Trump versus 60,000 for sleepy, crooked Joe Biden. I'm not sure what month he's talking about and what actually consists of border crossings, because there was that woman they caught that had like a truckload of like 25 illegals. So that's, I don't know if they consider a border crossing to be on foot crossings or like, I don't know how that works, but other than that, I'd say, yeah, he's probably right. It's probably damn near 0 people trying to cross back into the country, as far as we know. I lost my place. Big win in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on the president's core powers to call in the National Guard. The judges obviously realized Gavin Newsom was incompetent and ill-prepared, but this is much bigger because all over the U.S., if our cities and our people need protection, we are the ones to give it to them. Should state and local police be unable, for whatever reason, to get the job done. It's a great decision for our country, and we'll continue to protect our and defend our law-abiding Americans. Can't read today. FBI Director Kash Patel is intensifying surveillance efforts targeting Iran-backed operatives inside the U.S. with a sharp focus on potential Hezbollah-linked sleeper cells operating on American soil. President Trump is hesitant to bomb Iran, fearing it could collapse into chaos like Libya if Khamenei is removed, and determined to avoid repeating the failures of Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya. That's Trump keeping a cool head on things, even though he's had a lid on it all to begin with. Vladimir Putin says he fears the world's moving closer to World War III, though. Of course, when he wanted to mediate the whole thing, Trump's like, yeah, you got a war of your own to deal with. You go handle that first, and I'll fix this. So that didn't work out so well. Democrats are preparing for a second No Kings protest set to take place on the 4th of July. This is already going out all over the place, so I don't know. It doesn't sound like from some of the news last night that all these protests have stopped anyway. We're going to look at some of that. We'll come back around to that one. With our storms the other day, a gigantic dome that looked like an eyeball fell from the sky and landed on a street in Indiana. We take a look at what the heck it was.
And take a look at this. That's not a spaceship that landed in Indy. Sean Ash actually says it's a pretty simpler explanation for this situation near 21st and Arlington. He says a radome from a defunct radar at the old Raytheon site was knocked off a building during the severe storms. But people that were living by, stopping by to take a picture, say that they were also surprised it didn't hit anything on the way down.
I thought, sure, if it came from over there, it had to be high enough to go over the houses and then just boom, because that's what it sounded. That loud sound sounded like a big I don't know, like a bomb almost, but I thought it was thunder. And like I said, the wind was blowing, the rain was pouring down.
Right now, there are still thousands of Hoosiers without power here in central Indiana. You can take a look here at the power outage map. This is from AES specifically.
How exactly
right now, they tell us
does
there
that
are
happen?
31,000 customers without power.
They didn't show where it came from. They kind of skipped right over that. I mean, I don't know. I guess the storm could have carried it a little ways. They carry bigger things. Only in Indiana. You know what I'm talking about, David. Kidding, buddy. Pro-Palestinian activists break into the UK's largest airbase and vandalize 2 planes. This situation, I don't know. I'm sure it's embarrassing for the Ministry of Defense. You don't exactly just walk onto the largest airbase in the United Kingdom and just go play around a bunch of airplanes. But that's seemingly what happened in this situation, and we'll look at it.
The Prime Minister has condemned pro-Palestinian activists who sparked a serious security alert when they broke into RAF Brize Norton and vandalised military aircraft. Sir Keir Starmer said the act of vandalism was disgraceful. Barnaby Papadopoulos is at the airbase in Oxfordshire this lunchtime. Barnaby, big questions about security and how this was allowed to happen.
Massive questions, because the airbase you can see behind me is the RAF's largest in the UK, home to a fleet of refuelling and transport aircraft. And we do understand now that a full security review is underway. And that's because last night, 2 activists from the group Palestine Action managed to breach the perimeter fence here, use electric scooters to get up close to 2 of these planes, where they then sprayed red paint into their engines in an effort to disable them. Not only that, Lucrezia, they then managed to leave the airbase undetected. Well, planes regularly depart from here to RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus, from where the British military conducts its operations in the Middle East. That has included reconnaissance flights over the Gaza Strip. And Palestine Action say those flights are in support of Israel, which they believe is committing a genocide there. Well, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has called this disgraceful and an act of vandalism. Sentiments echoed.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Damn near feels like a setup. I mean, these guys just rode these scooters on it like there's nobody. All right, though. Moving on. Lost my spot. All right. And speaking of those flights, yes, Mike Huckabee posted this. American citizens wanting to evacuate Israel can sign up to be on a list. They're working to get military, commercial, charter flights, and cruise ships for evac. If you're offered a seat, take it. If you got family in Israel, tell them to stay close to shelter, not to ignore sirens. Britain's also organizing flights out of there, as are other countries. There was also a cruise ship of people stranded in Cyprus that they rescued today at some point. We'll take a look at what they got going.
All right, so there's a human story to this right here in the United States. You see that plane coming in from the sky. This is from Florida. The state chartered planes to bring almost 1,500 Jewish Americans to Tampa in action. Some of those passengers were on a birthright trip to Israel. So here's a look at their evacuation path. The group left from Israel to Cyprus. It's an island nation in the Mediterranean Sea via cruise ship. From there, they were told, get on flights bound for Tampa, Florida. This is their trajectory. Now, this is according to a statement from the Birthright Israel program. So let's get right to Manuel Bojorquez reporting from Tampa International Airport. Manny, what more do we know about the people on these flights?
Yeah, just within the last half hour or so, we learned from Gray Bull Rescue, that's one of the agencies in charge of trying to coordinate these evacuation flights, that more than 4,000 people in Israel have signed up to take one of those flights.
Well, I'm glad that I got those stories together. That was the people, or were the people in Cyprus. Jeez, guys, I can't speak. Anyway, UK is doing something similar. I'm not going to look at it long, but Many countries telling people to evacuate. So there's that. Here in Illinois, Mike Madigan was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison for corruption convictions. Can't say nothing's happening, guys. Thank God. They've been trying to get rid of this guy and get him locked up in Illinois for decades, I swear.
Big breaking news. The longest serving Speaker of the House in American history, Mike Madigan, was sentenced to prison today. Madigan received 7.5 years and a $2.5 million fine for corruption. Federal Judge John Blakey said that Madigan's own testimony during his trial was littered with lies. It's a spectacular fall from his powerful perch. And like so many of his predecessors in Illinois public office, it was corruption that will title the final chapter of that story.
Mr. Madigan, is there anything you'd like to say? Mike Madigan, who spent 36 years as the Illinois Speaker of the House, now heads to prison for 7.5 years.
For a person of his age, that's just about a life sentence.
Are you surprised?
I am not surprised. The crime was serious. It is abuse of power by perhaps the most powerful man in the state of Illinois.
One of the key schemes, Madigan.
Good riddance to that bad rubbish. And some other stuff going on. Bondi and Trump going with the current U.S. attorney. There's some good ones to choose from. Will he choose Ed Martin? I don't know. That seems like... I don't know how it goes with the border crossing post. But from SG Post is being reported that Pam Bondi and the DOJ are going to be charging multiple high-profile people for things that Doge discovered. Cases are being built now that include members of Congress and heads of agencies. Cases expected to hit by early fall. Moving forward here, USAID official pleaded guilty to $550 million corruption scheme, and we had looked at this once before when it was just going into court.
A massive bribery scandal has rocked the U.S. Agency for International Development, known as USAID, with over $550 million in taxpayer-funded contracts at the heart of the crime. 4 men, including a USAID official and 3 corporate executives, have pleaded guilty to a decade-long scheme that funneled lucrative deals to favored companies in exchange for cash, luxury gifts, and more. Let's dive into this shocking betrayal of public trust. The ringleader, Roderick Watson, a 57-year-old USAID contracting officer from Maryland, admitted to accepting bribes worth over $1 million. In return, he steered 14 prime federal contracts to 2 consulting firms, Aprio and Vistant, both certified small businesses under the...
It's kind of hard to imagine that one dude can be so disruptive to reroute $500 million worth of money. A man in Ohio was arrested and charged after Ohio GOP Congressman Max Miller reported to police that he was run off the road and threatened. We take a look at that.
In the meantime, though, as we approach the top of the hour, do have some breaking news to bring you. It regards a Republican member of Congress from Ohio, Congressman Max Miller. Live picture there over Capitol Hill. Well, Politico has it as follows, that Congressman Miller said today he was, quote unquote, run off the road by an aggressor with a Palestinian flag in his home state of Ohio. This drew condemnations from across the aisle. I'll stop talking. Here's Congressman Miller in his own words. This is him recounting what he experienced. Let's listen.
Let's make something abundantly clear to anyone who needs to see this, which apparently is a lot of people. If you have an issue with a legislator, your city councilman, your mayor, anyone like that, the appropriate thing to do is to reach out to them for a phone call to set up a meeting at one of our district offices. What is not okay is to assault anyone, whether you're a member of Congress or anybody else within our district, while you are driving to work. Ohio 7 this morning, as I was driving to work, some unhinged, deranged man decided to lay on his horn and run me off the road when he couldn't get my attention to show me a Palestinian flag. Not to mention death to Israel, death to me, that he wanted to kill me and my family. Thank God my daughter was not in my vehicle or anybody else at the time. We know exactly who you are. I have gone about my day. I have carried on my meetings, and we will not hide. And I will continue to fight against anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and all other forms of hate. You have an issue? Take it to our office. You want to run me off the road? That's a different story. We know who you are, young man, and the police are going to be paying you a visit. And I hope what you did this morning is worth it to you and anyone else who plans on doing this to anybody within our district, state, or country.
Okay,
you know, don't these things feel a little bit made up? Getting run off the road by the man with the Palestinian flag. A couple of Palestinians breaking into the largest Air Force base in the UK to spray paint some plane engines. If I didn't know any better, somebody was pulling our leg. Who would do such a thing? It was a 5.1 magnitude quake. I guess God, at least, is, responding in northern Iran amid the Israel tensions and stuff happening, which is funny because just the other day, Trump said, watch, a random earthquake will take it all out. Or did MJ say that? I don't know. MJ Truth might have said that. Yeah, it looks like his post. Funny stuff, huh? Either way, all that talk about that got people, one, thinking that maybe it was a tactical nuke that caused the register on the scale, or that perhaps they used an earthquake machine to make that happen. Yes, I said earthquake machine. I saw you all tune out. I didn't write it. Do you believe we possess such technology? This is the only guy I've ever heard talk about it. He was the 2023 whistleblower from Raytheon, a contractor. And you probably recognize this interview.
Since we have to be brief, I have already given all pertinent information and supporting documentation to the Senate Intelligence Committee and Arrow. They informed me that all of my information will be recorded for public record and shared with Congress. It is that important. In 2010, I was selected to go down to the South Pole Station in Antarctica for an entire year by Raytheon Polar Services as an employee of a third-party contractor for the National Science Foundation. I function in a dual-role capacity as a tradesman and a firefighter. My responsibilities required me to be more informed than most of my crew and offered me complete access to the facilities. What I learned from this unique experience needs to be shared with the entire world. The technology at the South Pole Station certainly can do what it is presented as its primary purposes, and unfortunately, much more. The Ice Cube neutrino detector is presented as a passive listening device for the purposes of the science as presented. But I'm going to skip right through the chase, folks. I have provided documentation that proves that the 5,160, what they call DOMs, that are embedded in the ice can actually transmit at 2,047 volts each. That gives us a long list of things to consider. It is effectively a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform that I will list rapidly a few things that it can do. Vehicle detection.
I get people laugh at that concept, but remember just 3 months ago, one of Trump's big guys was saying we can basically control space and time. So, I mean, yeah, those bunker busters, the tactical nukes, Trump was talking about maybe having to use one. You never know. Or Iran could, or Israel could have done something. Maybe they dropped one on Khamenei's head. I don't know. We'll find out, though. No, I don't think that machine has anything to do with what happened today, but just wanted to show you that anyway. Iran, of course, is rejecting any further negotiations as long as Israel is still attacking them, which sort of makes sense. Armed attack on nuclear facilities could result in radioactive releases. They've been warning about this more and more as there's continuous threats on their nuclear facilities. It'd be very dangerous and stupid. Colonel McGregor posted this. Don't be fooled. Israel is in worse shape than people think. About 1/3 of Tel Aviv has been damaged or destroyed. As far as their military installations are concerned, I'm told many Israeli aircrafts are being flown to Cyprus to avoid being struck. Israel was not prepared for Iran's response. Could be. Maybe we're helping both sides. I don't know. And it's still insanely amazing to me how many people in Congress are tied together with Israel via AIPAC. A lot. And I've got a quick video I want to show you regarding this very thing. I can find it here. Everything's all over the place. Here we go.
We may not lobby the executive, but as we were talking about, there was a discussion earlier about Congress being representative to the people. Well, the White House has to be responsive to Congress. And so it's working with, at the time, our friends on the Democratic side of the aisle to apply pressure the way that they know how to an administration, as it will be with this administration. Well, I was talking about the people who will get appointed into some of these jobs. Look, at the top level, you talk about Marco Rubio and Elise Stefanik and Michael Waltz. Those three people have something in common. They all serve in Congress. They all have relationships with key AIPAC leaders from their communities. So the lines of communication are good. Should there be something questionable?
I know it's a bad recording what he's doing there. It's a conversation of him talking about a few members of Trump's cabinet that he thinks they can manipulate. Marco Rubio, Elise Stefanik, Michael Waltz. So just thought I'd throw that out there. Interesting. And that's the CEO of AIPAC having that little conversation. But still insane how connected we are to a country that's not our own, so much so that they worry about it more than our own at times. All right. Moving forward. Carrie Lake stirred up some holy hell today. She fired 85% of the positions at the U.S. Agency for Global Media, and we will take a look, see if I can read this. In accordance with President Trump's executive order dated March 14, 2025, continuing the reduction of the federal bureaucracy, U.S. Agency for Global Media has completed a significant workforce reduction, eliminating 1,400 positions, an 85% decrease in personnel since March. Today, we took decisive action and effectuate President Trump's agenda to shrink the out-of-control federal bureaucracy. I'd say notices were sent to 639 employees at the Global Media and Voice of America, a long overdue effort to dismantle a bloated, unaccountable bureaucracy. Voice of America. That's not Charlie Kirk, is it? I can't remember. All right. And moving on. It's always tied to somebody in the school system, right? A New York school employee was arrested after sending nude photos to a 14-year-old boy. We look at this.
Bend County Sheriff's Office 22-year-old Anna Maria Malazzo was arrested for sending indecent photos to minors, and that's a felony. She's also charged with endangering the welfare of a child. Police say the boy in question is 14 years old. Police say they acted after a resource officer at Greater Southern Tier BOCES got a tip. She's now charged with a felony, that's sending indecent photos to a minor. She's also charged with endangering the welfare of a child. Under New York State's no-cash bail law, she was released and did not spend time in jail.
So in the intro, there was a little video about the Democrats trying to protect squatters, and I think that was in Maryland. And continuing on this story, the Tried to interview this woman who has a social media account where she advertises empty houses to attract squatters. Check this story out.
To do an interview when I was portraying to look like a monster. You don't want to interview me? Let's talk about governance in the city.
Hey, Miss Washington, Gary Collins of Fox 45 News. Our team learned Washington was in court in Frederick County for unrelated traffic violations. We tried to speak to her about her social media account. How are you? Quick question: Why are you connecting individuals to squatter houses on your social
following
media?
me to court is crazy.
Miss Washington, you can record us, but I'm very curious why you're following.
Do y'all see that? Get away from me before I
why?
clock you. I'm not playing with you.
Before you clock me, Miss Washington?
Get on my face.
So why are you?
Could you get on my face? Get on my face. Get on my face.
Why
Get on my
are you
face.
connecting people?
Get on my face.
Why are you connecting people?
What you talking about? I don't play like that. Y'all run it down on me and all that. Don't play with me.
I would.
What you talking about? And you a dummy.
No clear answer what Kiana Washington's role may be in online squatting networks in Maryland. What we do know is officials acknowledge how social media is fueling squat.
The trash in America. It's piling up. And if Maryland doesn't already have enough problems with that woman running around, another illegal alien raped a child, was arrested. He took hostage of a 13-year-old. Sad story.
Wanted for sexually assaulting a child and then leaving the country, but now he's in custody.
And authorities in Maryland say that he was arrested in Arizona when he re-entered the country and is back in Charles County. And that is where we find our Fox 5's Nana Bonsu with the very latest. Nana?
The Charles County Sheriff's Office says a 28-year-old man drove to this Dorchester neighborhood and convinced a 12-year-old to come out of her house and sexually assaulted her in his car. On your screen is the man the Sheriff's Office once called a fugitive. 28-year-old Franklin Argueta Marquez is facing 2 counts of rape and sexual offense. Investigators say Argueta Marquez.
Do you know who your children are talking to online? 12-year-old girl lured out of her house. 13-year-old. Doesn't matter how old she is. Crying out loud. And the Judge Dugan case has been delayed indefinitely, just like the left would do.
Wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom, you're not going to believe this, takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Wow.
You know,
Madam Attorney General, great to have.
And they're delaying her case. Isn't that sweet? And this from the Berry County Sheriff's Office. Michigan Sheriff bills of lading detail. Fascinating. I muted myself, didn't I? Sorry, guys. They connected the equipment to China. Pretty fascinating, really. That'll make for some damn good evidence. Antifa attacked an ICE detention facility in Oregon. When will they be designated as a terrorist organization? Not soon enough.
If there was ever any doubt, Antifa is the muscle behind Portland's far-left protest scene. And these violent militants showed their clout Wednesday evening by swarming the Immigration and Customs Enforcement building. They're demanding the shutdown of this ICE facility because it's used for processing illegals.
It didn't look so bad during the day, but as night came on... Looks like they're all running in circles. I don't know, man. Wild. Trump approves the storm damage money for the great state of Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, and North Carolina, among the other states that were previously approved. Take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, our government has abandoned us. Something unnatural occurred with this hurricane. And it looks like it has targeted various areas for various resources. And the lack of help and transparency in these areas is alarming. What we're hearing on the ground from people that live there, civilians, and people that are trying to rescue people, is that the government was nowhere to be found.
Yep. About time, isn't it? Patriot Princess posted this: 2 flags, 2 rainbows, 2 choppers, 2 images, 2 fighter jets, posted by Dan Scavino. No Kings 2.0 protest planned. Trump's post about 2020. Clean and swift. National Guard. We'll see. Might turn out to be an interesting 4th of July. And this from BioClandestine. Just to be clear, MAGA's not divided. The only ones who have their panties in a bunch are the libertarians, never-Trumpers, and Israel-obsessed dipshits who begrudgingly voted Trump because there were no other options. Well, that's divided. And it's always going to be like that. You got weary people that support Trump without question, people that have lots of questions, people on the left. And a lot of the turning on Trump that you're seeing publicly, like with Tucker Carlson, I don't think it's about turning on Trump. It's about bringing attention to issues. A few more stories. U.S. is prepared to deploy a 4th aircraft carrier to the Middle East. USS George Washington, which is currently deployed in the Pacific near Japan, is placed on standby in case they need to move out. Iran's internet services have been down now for over 48 hours as everything's going on. On Sunday, Andrew McCarthy traveled deep into the desert to capture a rare and extraordinary moment, the International Space Station passing in front of the sun. What he didn't expect was the sun releasing a magnificent flare at the exact same time. It's a once-in-a-lifetime shot that he was thrilled to share. Pretty cool, huh? He calls it Kardashev Dreams, representing the humble beginnings of our civilization as it takes its first step toward greater advancement. It's a pretty gnarly picture of the sun, isn't it? Cool stuff. As for Elon Musk, his Starship exploded again while on the ground. Not so good. sure it'll burn itself out. Set the whole neighborhood on fire. Come on, Elon. Not good. The Biden judge has ordered the Trump administration to release radical pro-Hamas activist Mahmoud Khalil. We'll take a look.
The judge just ordered the Trump administration to release Mahmoud Khalil on bail. The ruling would end a 3-month detention for the former Columbia University grad student. Khalil is a legal permanent U.S. resident and a new father who played a leading role in anti-Gaza war demonstrations on the Columbia campus last year. Joining us now, MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin and NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. So, Lisa, tell me a little bit more about this ruling. What does it mean for Khalil?
Well, so first of all, this is an order that he has to be released under the judge's discretion. So we will obviously keep you posted as to when and if he is released today, or if the government seeks a stay of this order and immediately appeals it. But Katie, in the meantime, this judge, Michael Farbiars of the District of New Jersey, had granted an injunction to Khalil last week, finding that the primary...
I think he's not going anywhere personally, but that's just me. And the government of Pakistan has decided to formally recommend President Donald J. Trump for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize. I'd bring you this story, but unfortunately it's all in
एजाज होता है हम मलाला यूसुफजई को पाकिस्तान में ये मिला हुआ है उससे पहले एटमी साइंसदान उन्हें भी मिला था तो ये कितना बड़ा एजाज होता है अब
But you get the point, right? I wanted to share a quick video, a new video from the Reese report about the Iran-Israel situation. Let's take a look. I suppose I should unpause it. There we go. Now we'll take a look.
An Arab Palestine is a threat to Great Britain and a menace to the world. A Jewish Palestine is an asset to Great Britain and a blessing to the world.
From its inception, Israel began the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians living on the land given to them by the British Crown. The new Israelis used biological warfare by poisoning village wells, which was considered a war crime but ignored. In the early 1970s, Israel supplied weapons and intelligence to aid South Africa's apartheid movement in return for weapons-grade uranium. In 1982, thousands of Palestinians were executed in Israeli-run refugee camps, and the UN General Assembly labeled it an act of genocide. In 1994, Israel supplied weapons to support the Rwanda genocide, which murdered about 800,000 people. In 2006, Israel was accused of war crimes after deploying cluster bombs in civilian areas. Israel supplied weapons and training to South Sudanese forces during their civil war, where war crimes were rampant. Israel sold weapons to Myanmar's military during its 2017 Rohingya genocide. Meanwhile, British imperialism has been infiltrating Persia for over a century. In 1891, the Qajar dynasty sold Persia's entire tobacco industry to Britain for £15,000. In 1902, they sold exclusive oil rights to Britain, who then formed the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. In 1935, when Persia was renamed Iran, the name was changed to the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Iranian leadership had all the appearances of being vassals to the British crown, until 1951, when Iran elected Mohammad Mossadegh as prime minister and voted to nationalize their oil. Time magazine called him the Iranian George Washington and Man of the Year, but the British view was that Iran had just stolen their biggest oil source. They organized an international boycott and began seizing tankers carrying Iranian oil. With the help of Alan Dulles and the CIA, British intelligence ran Operation Ajax. Mohammad Reza Shah was taken into protective custody by British intelligence and received cash from the CIA. After Mossadegh was overthrown in 1953, Mohammad Reza Shah was returned to Iran and put back in power, where he began forming alliances with Israeli businesses and the U.S. military. In 1954, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company became the British Petroleum Company, or BP, and Mohammad Reza Shah was seen as a puppet of the crown. But things changed. The Shah became critical of Israel after their 1967 war crimes, and by the 1970s, the Shah had initiated the formation of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and openly planned to terminate the 1954 Consortium Agreement, which provided Western oil companies 50% ownership of Iranian oil. The Shah officially gave an ultimatum that the consortium agreement would be terminated in 1979. But by 1979, the Iranian Revolution was led by the Ayatollah Khomeini, who was accused a year prior of being a British agent. And the 1954 consortium agreement was nullified by the Islamic Republic. This marked the end of Western control over Iran's oil and the beginning of Iran becoming public enemy number one in the West. After 9/11, Iran became the final target in the U.S. military's long series of destabilizing governments. They are now in the crosshairs, and Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince of the Pahlavi dynasty, puppet to the British crown and Zionist, is being sold to the people as a new leader. Greg Reese reporting.
That's what I've been trying to tell you guys all along about the deep state controlling Iran. They literally think the Ayatollah is a British agent in disguise, for crying out loud. You see what they do, and you mess with their oil, and now it leads us to exactly where we are now. All right, moving on. Now that we've gone through the news, we're going to take a look at something from SG Anon. Love SG Anon. And I'll be with you in the chat, and we'll go from there. Patriots.
Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 96th audio file in the audiocast series known as the Q News Patriot. I am the Q News Patriot. My name is SG Anon. Well, Patriots, I have to say, just in the days since our last audio file, we've seen that silent world war scenario in the background that we've talked about really since the very beginning on this show begin to break its silence and come forward publicly in significant and very dramatic ways. You know, if the theme of our last audio file was resilience, then the theme of today's file is probably best characterized as patience and discernment. We've been living through the largest, most complex military and civilian co-op ever undertaken, spanning boundary lines, borders, even ideologies, and this period of time, Patriots, is intended to accomplish an entire array of objectives in every major worldwide theater. Among them, the return of true and authentic power back to the people, not just of the United States, but of all cultures and all countries. We have to remember that deception and disinformation are tools of war, and they're not only needed, but they're pivotal to the rapid movement forward of humanity's best purposes, and those aims are not always going to be readily apparent in the surface-level rhetoric or events that are ruling the information landscape. In fact, I would argue that when we look between the lines, what we find is that forces for good remain in near total control of very delicate situations and circumstances, and they're using that control to destroy pocketed compartments of mankind's enemies all over the world. What's happening in Iran, for example, is just the newest trough of evidence for that undercurrent end goal. And these events not only provide a smokescreen, which is necessary to kinetically destroy a huge bastion of intelligence community traitors, but they also serve a crucial mass-scale distraction role at a time when things like the literal reconquering of the foreign vassal state of Washington, D.C. is being broadcast to the entirety of the planet. Patriots, these are incredible times, and we're going to break these and some other developments down in just a moment. But first, let's hear a quick word from today's file sponsor, Bloodflow 7 by Juvenon. Patriots, we could describe the post-COVID world in a lot of different ways, but on a personal note, the biggest differences for my family and I between pre-2020 and post-2020 really center around two main areas: the broad public awakening that we talk about often on this show, and the challenges to maintaining and improving personal health and vitality. I can't speak for all of you out there, but with respect to that inside our household, one of the biggest changes we've seen over the last 5 years has been a noticeable drop in vigor and energy levels. Going into COVID, for example, I was working as a full-time upper mid-level business manager between 45 and 65 hours a week. And it was nothing at all for me to come home after work every day, even on the long weeks, split the housework up, and be an involved and active dad. These days, I keep a schedule that's slightly less than 45 hours each week, with different and arguably less stress than a few years ago. And by the time I hit 9 p.m., it feels like I could fall asleep standing up. I blame that on a lot of different things, from disrupted hormones and American frankenfoods to the biologically altered reality of our world. But over the last 5 years, I've also learned that a major cause of depleted vitality is a deficiency of something called nitric oxide molecules, blood-borne molecules that help relax the body's blood vessels, veins, and arteries, ultimately resulting in better blood flow and circulation to areas of the body that often find themselves shortchanged once our main internal organ systems are provided for. Big Pharma will charge you anywhere from 9 to 20 times the standard market value for their nitric oxide boosting prescriptions, when effective supplements for blood and circulation support exist and are on the free market already. I've tried a couple of these myself over the last few years, but I recently got the chance to try Blood Flow 7, made by Juvenon. And I have to say, Patriots, I think it really works. BF7 is a triple action supplement with clinical studies behind it that show a 150 to 200% increase in nitric oxide production and a widening of vessel and arterial channels by over 50% from baseline. This translates to better flow and more oxygen and nutrition being delivered to both critical and non-critical bodily systems. I've been taking 2 capsules right after breakfast each morning, and I've noticed better stamina, better focus, and more vitality, even on the days where I skip my morning coffee. It's made with naturally derived ingredients, including the inactive fillers, and customer reviews found online suggest people are noticing real results with BF7 in just hours and days rather than weeks or months. Additionally, Juvenon offers a full 60-day empty bottle money-back guarantee on their product in the unlikely event that a customer out there isn't fully satisfied with their experience. You can try Blood Flow 7 by Juvenon for a little over $1 a day by navigating to www.bloodflow7.com/QNP or clicking the link below today's video. Once again, that is www.bloodflow7.com/QNP or look for the link in the description box below. It worked for me, and I hope it works for you too. Thanks. All right, Patriots, without further ado, let's start today's file off with this alleged dead man switch coming from Virginia Giuffre and some good old-fashioned military wisdom. Allow me a moment here. Many of you have probably seen this video circulating on the X platform and other video hosting platforms. It is an alleged dead man switch tying back to Virginia Giuffre after she supposedly missed 2 scheduled check-ins. It is worth noting, Patriots, that I've been able to trace this video out as having been AI generated, but I don't think that diminishes the importance of it or the relevance of it in today's day and time, and I'll get to that here in just a moment. But for those that have not seen the video, I'm going to pull it up on the X platform. As you can see, it comes from an account, SXDoc. This account is sort of in a non-adjacent account. A lot of interesting content comes out of this account. But this video, obviously widely circulated, over 670,000 views now. I want each of you to listen very carefully to the claims made within and the way the syntactic flow of the video actually comes out.
If you're watching this, it means they got me. My dead man switch activated automatically after I missed 2 scheduled check-ins. I had it set up months ago because I knew this day was coming. I did not die by accident. I was murdered to keep their secrets buried. My name is Virginia Louise Giuffre. I was one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. I survived Little St. James, but survival came at a price. I saw too much, knew too much. And now they've silenced me. But it's too late for them. They thought killing me would bury their secrets, but this video is going to a few organizations I trust, ones that have been exposing the truth for decades. You know who you are. It's your job to continue this fight. I was 16 when they reeled me in. I worked at Mar-a-Lago, folding towels, cleaning lockers. My father kept the tennis courts immaculate. We were just working folks trying to scrape by. Trump, he was around, but he was never the threat. The real predator was Ghislaine Maxwell, prim and proper, smiling, promising to teach me massage therapy at the Pink Mansion in Palm Beach. I had no idea I was being fed into a nightmare machine. Epstein's Island was hell disguised as paradise. You've heard some names linked to him, but those are just the sacrificial pawns. The real players, the ones they've protected at all costs, are still hiding in plain sight. I'll name two now. The first, a former U.S. president, Barack Obama. Publicly, he's revered. Privately, he was one of the worst. He wasn't there for the girls. He was there for the island boys. Young boys, trafficked and groomed. I saw him more times than I can count, always without his Secret Service detail, sometimes with his Hollywood friends, George Clooney and Tom Hanks. I still have nightmares about them, arrogant and drunk on power, slinking into the cabanas with kids barely out of childhood. The second, Bill Gates, the billionaire philanthropist, loved by the media, hailed as a savior. We called him the benefactor, and we used to dread seeing him naked. But he didn't come to party. He came to experiment. Genetic experiments, human experiments. I saw him inject a young girl with something they said was a genetic enhancement. She was younger than me, strapped to a table, terrified, treated like a lab rat while they muttered about seeding the future of the species. These men think they are gods, playing with life like it was theirs to own. I'm telling you now, Epstein isn't dead. They staged his death because he was too valuable. He held blackmail on some of the most powerful people on earth. Files, videos, confessions. They couldn't risk him talking, but they also couldn't risk him gone, so they hid him. Stashed him under the protection of the same elite who once paid him to supply them with flesh. And they thought killing me would stop this from coming out. They were wrong, and there is so much more to come. Hidden servers, encrypted drives, witness testimonies. It's all going to hit the light. This video is just the first detonation. The data drops are timed and automatic. They are going to people who can make a difference, and nobody can stop it now. Not even the law enforcement agencies in the US and UK, the same ones that buried the evidence I handed them, can stop this truth from getting out. If you're watching this, you are the resistance. Don't let my death be just another headline. Burn their lies to the ground. Make the world see the monsters behind the masks. And to any survivors out there, don't give up. We're in this together. They can't kill us all. Make them pay.
Now, Patriots, if you paid attention to that video and the overall flow, you'll be familiar with the fact that the audio sort of comes together in an inauthentic and incongruous way. And it makes the video sound very much computer generated. And I was able to flesh that out by taking the audio out of the video, putting it into an audio editor, and then slowing the playback way, way down. The vocalization becomes very incongruous, and it becomes apparent that it's an inauthentic representation. It's not a human voice per se. But I began thinking about those cue drops that discussed the wargaming that was going on many years ago and even through to the present day, utilizing supercomputing, super algorithmic capabilities and things like that. And I thought to myself, is it not possible? In fact, is it even probable that during a disinformation and worldwide espionage war, one would need to introduce certain information in a way that preserves its purity for future investigative use, especially when claims are coming from the FBI, like from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino over recent weeks and months discussing this very issue surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. And so what I did is, after I was able to establish that the audio itself was not necessarily inorganic, but that it might not be wholly inaccurate, I decided to reach out to someone that I've had an interesting little couple of conversations with over these last couple of years after coming onto the space in this sort of pseudo podcaster movement. And one of the things that they sent back to me was very, very interesting. This is a retired military lieutenant colonel, not someone who's connected to any operations or any sort of high-level knowledge per se, but someone who I just think has a very interesting and learned perspective on these issues. And so I sent this over in the middle of a conversation we were having just about the overall Great Awakening, the overall alliance warfare operations happening worldwide. Give me a moment here. I want to share actually our conversation. I have changed the contact name to preserve his anonymity and the safety of his family. Give me just a moment here. As you can tell, we were up here talking a little bit about patriots are getting weary with things, especially as we've come into this now second publicly visible Trump presidency. And the response I got, I get it, war is messy, exhausting. And then I said, what are your thoughts on the alleged new release from Virginia Guffrey, Dead Man Switch? I found out it's AI generated after stripping the audio and slowing the syntax way down. And the reply was, both sides have AI. Remember that. If no legal way to introduce details due to ongoing ops or capture or stonewalling, how do you bypass while preserving authenticity for court, law enforcement, future actions? And so, Patriots, like we talked on previous files with respect to Kash Patel and some of the claims being made, it remains to be fleshed out whether he's making those claims in the service of broader law enforcement investigations and operations that are still ongoing, both domestically and internationally, or if he's acting in service of shielding the information. But the information itself is going to come out regardless. And did you pick up on the phrase that was utilized in that video that I'm purporting to say was AI generated? The data drops are timed. In other words, this is sort of computerized automated lingo. And the very next sentence was, they cannot be stopped. We've heard that lingo a number of times tying back to the Q boards. We've heard it tying back to even the White House in various intersectory points along the way, things not being able to be stopped, or indications or nods to Anons and Great Awakening and things like that. So as we look at this period of time, Patriots, we have to keep in mind that the deception operation, the overall smokescreen that's being maintained at the international pulpit, it's not only serving the kinetic end goals of removing pocketed resistance and pocketed threats to mankind, resistance and threats that have been around for a very long time, but it also serves as the perfect landscape to deliver massive horse-sized red pills without impacting the authenticity and the legal admissibility of some of these things as we go forward in linear time. And I want to highlight for each of you out there the fact that the Iranian conflict is occurring in the fashion that it's occurring right now, and that it's occurring primarily at the behest of the commander-in-chief. This is not an accident. And while I was at first a little bit skeptical about the use of force without congressional approval, for example, I find it very interesting that we've actually been in a war with Iran and the intelligence community bastion that is inside Iran for a number of years now. We have to keep in mind that Ayatollah Khomeini, for example, his lineage goes back to the UK intelligence and oil tycoon community. And he was not an authentic installation, if you will, and not an authentic representation of the people of Iran, nor of the people of the broader Arabic region there in the world. That particular nation state has been utilized essentially as an intelligence community playground and boogeyman for a very long time for a number of different reasons. And there is a major reason, in my opinion, why Barack Obama sent them really over $2 billion when we factor things down, about 1.9 or 2.1, I think is the number, $billion throughout the course of his 8 years in office. And it was not just for election interference. But election interference is a main reason and a main factor of what's actually happening on the ground today. And if we go back to the U.S. Department of the Treasury, we find that as early as October of 2020, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and entities emerging from Iran in a cyber threat basis were being sanctioned by the Department of the Treasury under Executive Order 13848, taken from the federalregister.gov. We see here. Entities affected, notice of Office of Foreign Asset Control actions. On October 22nd, 2020, the Office of Foreign Asset Control determined that the property and interests in property subject to U.S. jurisdiction of the following persons are blocked under the relevant sanctions listed below. Bayan Rasana Gostar Institute, which is the Bayan Gostar Media Institute. Additional sanctions information subject to secondary sanctions under Executive Order 13848 linked to Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, designated pursuant to Section 2A, subsection I of Executive Order 13848 of September 12, 2018, imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in a United States election for having directly or indirectly engaged in, sponsored, concealed, or otherwise been complicit in foreign interference. The next few entities are the International Union of Virtual Media, linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Islamic Radio and Television Union, also linked to the same IRGC groups, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps itself, and then it lists a whole lot of subcategories and subdirectory names here that are being utilized as fronts for the Guard Corps, not only in Iran, but also out of Syria. And then the fifth item number, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and a lot of other subdirectories, some of them coming out of Israel, believe it or not. Designated pursuant to Section 2A, subsection I of EO 13848 for having directly or indirectly engaged in, sponsored, concealed, or otherwise been complicit in foreign interference in a United States election this 22nd of October, 2020. If we look forward a little bit more in the linear time frame, we can also find the Treasury establishing additional sanctions on cyber actors out of Iran for the exact same offenses, going back to both the 2020 and 2024 presidential elections. A separate media release on the 18th of November, 2021, Treasury sanctions Iran cyber actors for attempting to influence the 2020 presidential election. And then it goes through and it discusses a great deal of things here and shows the individuals that were designated here from a group called Eminet Services, it looks like, Eminet Pasograd. So coming forward to December of 2024, just a couple of 3 years later, let me see here, Treasury sanctions entities in Iran and Russia that attempted to interfere in the 2024 presidential election. Now, one has to ask, Patriots, we have to stop back and examine the landscape here. What's going on in Iran right now? We're clearly seeing an attack situation going back and forth between two intelligence community bastions. That much I think is pretty apparently obvious, even for patriots that are not hardcore awake. But think more vertically and think more deeply. What did Q tell us about Iran, Russia, and North Korea? Q told us in at least one drop, and I think there were a couple of different drops that discussed this, the idea of Iran, Russia, and North Korea constituting a closed financial system that was insular, an insular bubble inside of the worldwide SWIFT markets that was being utilized to control all three nation states and also ensure funding for terroristic activities and terroristic false flags and other things of that nature in various respective regions of the world, the Middle East, the Pacific Rim, and of course in Russia and Eastern Europe. And so when we look at what's happening now, we're seeing all three of those countries involved in the broader discussion, in the broader fray. We know that Kim's strings were cut way back in 2018 with an event that wiped out a great deal of CIA and foreign intelligence community that sort of acted as the on-the-ground enforcers, the arm twisters, if you will, of the North Korean government at the time. We've seen a broader fleshing out of the same sort of situation in Russia in a more indirect and sort of a more law enforcement focused way. We saw the what I believe to be the sabotage highlighting operation, the sleight of hand operation that was conducted by the Wagner Group back, I believe, in 2022, where we saw this sort of 72-hour rebellion led against the Moscow authorities inside Russia. And of course, President Putin utilized that emergency condition, which was over again in less than 4 days, to expand certain law enforcement operations on the ground. And we saw the FSB arrest a number of government officials and government adjacent officials in contracting roles for things like espionage, spying, money laundering, bribery, corruption, things of that nature. Now we are seeing the Iranian intelligence community and the Iranian locus of that closed and insular financial system pretty much pummeled into oblivion. And the entirety of the Iranian government over the last really 40 plus years or so has been a conflagration, a combination, maybe is a better way to say it, of the intelligence community worldwide. In other words, we're seeing different factional components that have made their way in and really entrenched themselves generationally inside Tehran and inside the government functions there and the government factions there. And so what you're seeing on the ground in Iran right now, in my opinion, is the removal of that particular community that controlled this last node of stolen and stored money, and the ability for this sort of insular financial system to resist oversight and international participation. And that's going to be necessary if we're going to move forward with something like an RV, a reinjection of worldwide economy, a refiring of worldwide economic power. We cannot have a terrorist state, an intelligence community bastion, still on the playing board when we choose to make that particular maneuver, because we'll see a siphoning off, a sabotage, a obstruction and a prevention in many regards of what we're trying to accomplish as we go forward. And we'll be right back here to the same table in 20 or 30 years. And with that, I want to highlight, Patriots, for those out there, that President Trump is giving us sort of powerful and overt implications that the irregular warfare landscape, the true goals here, the true meaning of what it means to give power back to the people, is moving forward in an unstoppable and very publicly significant way. If we come over here to USA Today, a headline taken just from yesterday, Trump installs pair of 88-foot tall new flagpoles at the White House. So we have 88 times 2 in this particular symbolism representation. These flagpoles, of course, being the first flagpoles to be erected on the grounds of the White House. And that's something to keep in mind, right? The soil means something. The jurisdiction of the land means something. And so, in my opinion, this was the Republic reclaiming the territory that the White House was built upon. The U.S. flag was raised on the South Lawn around 1 p.m. Eastern at a ceremony that included Trump's daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner. The couple was at the White House to watch the swearing in of Charles Kushner, Jared's father, as U.S. ambassador to France. I'm not sure if it's related, Patriots, but something I find very interesting with that is on the 18th of June, 2018, so a 7-year delta to the day, we saw Q post 1540, which was a screenshot share of a tweet by Devin Nunes put out on the 17th of June, 2018 that stated, "Can anyone tell me who the DOJ lawyer is that speaks French via text in the Inspector General report? This will save a lot of time in the hearings this week, so my colleagues won't have to ask this question." And Q responds by sharing that post and captioning it, "See next, eggshells." Additionally, Patriots, we saw each of these flagpoles coming in at $50,000 a piece. So if you have 50 and 50 set against one another numerically, the zeros mean nothing, and you end up with a 5x5 representation or a caricature or a symbolic ode to something tying back to 5x5. Again, with another Q drop, 1544, June 18, 2018, this one from 3:24 and 45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, this referencing Iran, with some websites that have now been taken offline, but I've managed to dredge one of them back up with the Wayback Machine. Money, not security. Nuclear device prevention, owned politician, nuclear development prevention, excuse me, owned politicians returning to the news. Q. And so again, this being an exact 7-year delta to Trump's erection of the flagpoles on the White House grounds here in Washington, D.C. And this article that was shared by Q on that 7-year delta in 2018, titled "EU is Taking Steps to Protect Companies in Iran." According to an article published by New Europe Weekly on Monday, the European Commission said it has adopted an update of the blocking statute and of the European Investment Bank's external lending mandate. The move follows up on the informal leaders' meetings in Sofia, as well as the Commission's announcements of May 18th. These measures are meant to help protect the interests of EU companies investing in Iran and to demonstrate the EU's commitment to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The EU is fully committed to the continued full and effective implementation of the JCPOA, so long as Iran also respects its obligations. At the same time, the European Union is also committed to maintaining cooperation with the United States, who remains a key partner and ally. On the 8th of May, this going back to 2018, President Donald Trump officially withdrew from the UN-endorsed nuclear agreement and plans to reimpose sanctions on Iran. After the U.S. withdrawal, Iran wants assurances from the remaining parties that its interests are guaranteed. Otherwise, it will resume nuclear activities with a higher speed. So again, Q references this on the exact 7-year delta to Trump's flagpoles, that this is about money, not security, and that the politicians are owned, and that the issue of Iran and the nuclear development arena was going to return to the news. And what have we seen happening in just rare and dramatic form in recent days with respect to what's going on in the Middle East? And we've seen President Trump sort of take a very even-keeled approach to this, in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan, obviously, of some of the optics and of how it looks, but we have to keep in mind that there's more at play here and that certain sacrifices do have to be made in the service of securing for our posterity that future and liberty that we all want. But give me just a moment here. I want to show each of you something that I thought was very, very interesting. And this came from President Trump as he was on the South Lawn with the installation of these flagpoles the day before the flag raising. I believe it was the day before. No, it was the same day of. I apologize, June 18th, earlier in the morning with this group of individuals. And Patriots, as I bring this video up for each of you, I want you to pay attention to how many of these hats that these gentlemen are wearing are obvious white hats and hard hats, and the single black hat that is in the group here. I'm not suggesting anything about the man himself. I'm simply saying that the symbolism, the putting forward of the nonverbal communication to the formation warfare landscape. So give me a moment here. Let me pull this up. All right. We have to pardon me if an ad happens to show up here. I've been trying to do my best to prevent that. But I want each of you to hear what the commander-in-chief says about these particular flagpoles and about the raising of them.
Flagpoles. I'm not even going to talk to you. I'm a big movie star. So somewhere you have that. Anyway, let's have a good, they call it a lifting. They also use another word, but I'm not going to use that word. You know what that is? The word, it starts with an E. You know what the word is? If I ever used it, I'd be run out of town by you people. All right, so enjoy it. Doc, you're going to get some good. He's going to win another Nobel Prize, I think, for this picture. So.
There's another word with the letter E. I can't use that word because I'll be run out of town by you people. But we'll win another Nobel Prize, right? That's the statement that was made there by President Trump. And I got very fascinated by that, and I thought to myself, what could he be referencing with, highlighting the word or highlighting the letter E in that conversation? And very interestingly, a drop that deltas to June 19th, the very next day, also on that same 7-year cycle, June 19th of 2018. And this one at 11:53 and 55 or 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. D class, Lisa Page, Viva la Resistance, Viva versus Vive, and it highlights an A and an E in this drop. And then we have the next line, James Clapper, why classified by intelligence community at highest level? Define title, define role with Mueller, exchange shelters, very senior member, Q. And of course, Lisa Page and her association with the Crossfire Hurricane investigations, the Durham report, things like that. I think President Trump is giving us an indication that these investigations going on in the background, summarized by a lot of these reports and activities along the way, are still ongoing, and they're going to come out in the wash, potentially of the wash of what's going on with the Iranian conflict right now in the present day and present time. And again, when we go back and we look at the video, it's clear that the symbolism is powerful. Now, I want to highlight something else about the symbolism in this particular press conference that Trump gave. We have one individual in the press conference that stands over to the far right of the frame as you look at it, but to President Trump's sort of left and back from President Trump. And this individual is the only one there wearing a bright orange shirt. And orange is another color code that is utilized a lot in these types of nonverbal communications with the type of enemy that we're facing down. And Patriots, it was the New York Times of all outlets that chose to run an article just today, so the very next day after these remarks were made with this group in front of the White House, that highlighted the fact that there was a singular individual there in a bright orange shirt. Coming over here to the title of the article, A Tree Trimmer's Front Row Seat to Trump's Impromptu Iran Remarks. So I want to time out, Patriots, and pause and really break down some of the symbolism here, because I've purported to say on this broadcast and platform for a very long time that components of the mainstream media were actually placed into submission in the first Trump presidency, and they have been utilized essentially as communication pathways, not just for normies and not just for awakening purposes, but also for those anons and digging patriots out there to keep pace with what's actually happening in the background. Q tells us that news unlocks the map, and so we have to have a little bit of faith in there that some of these news articles that are put out by various outlets are going to have guide stones for us. So a tree trimmer's front row seat to Trump's impromptu Iran remarks. What does a tree trimmer do? A tree trimmer prunes things. A tree trimmer gets rid of the dead wood. A tree trimmer is willing to take the chainsaw to the areas of the tree that really have to have it brought off in order that the rest of the tree may flourish and thrive as it grows forward in linear time. And so we've been witnessing, in my opinion, the greatest tree trimming ever in human history over the last 8 to 10 years around the world, really trying to rein in vines that had infested and infiltrated every component of our planet. Coming down here in the article, the third paragraph, the article written by reporter Sean McCreesh from Washington. Mr. Tattersall was there in his bright orange shirt and his climbing harness hovering just over the president's left shoulder, shocked to find himself cast as an unwitting extra on the geopolitical stage. Now, I think if we look at the video, Patriots, Mr. Tattersall wasn't necessarily shocked, certainly excited and caught off guard, but the article, of course, being a little bit sensational. Coming further down here, Mr. Tattersall is 40 years old. He has a wife who's a flower farmer and a daughter in small business taking down trees, which he started with nothing but a trailer about 10 years ago. Now, what else occurred 10 years ago this week, Patriots? We saw President Trump coming down the escalator. He is also a cat rescue specialist who has rescued close to 100 cats from trees. He doesn't know much about politics, nor does he care to. He didn't vote in last year's election. He scheduled a vacation to Thailand that week and got away from all that noise. But hell, he thought to himself, it's the White House. He agreed to help. So this is clearly aimed at those centrists and independents and that silent majority that really does not want to be bothered with politics even now. And in my opinion, Patriots, this is sort of an indication that we're really trying to hammer the consciousness with certain reality components, as well as provide those breadcrumbs to maintain that structural integrity on behalf of very awake patriots. At 3 a.m. Wednesday, he got up and jumped into his 2004 Ford F-550 pickup truck. So there's another 5x5 comm. That brings us to a total of 3 patriots when we factor in the timestamp from drop 1559, a 7-year delta to the day of this New York Times article, and 1 day after the 7-year delta of June 18th, and this drop having a 5x5 in the timestamp. We also have President Trump's flagpoles costing $50,000 each. So we'll remove all the zeros from 250s and you get 5x5. Continuing here in the article, he got a coffee from 7-Eleven and drove down to Washington. By 7 a.m., he was on the South Lawn. So we're going to take this a little staggered. I'm going to stop there again. 7-Eleven, 711. We have 7 a.m. in the very next sentence. So this is 7117 as a palindrome. He was on the South Lawn helping to set up a crane. A few hours into the job, the crew looked up and saw the president strolling toward them. A mob of shouting reporters and pushy cameramen trailed in his wake. Now, the South Lawn component, Patriots, in my opinion, is also significant here because what is BRICS? BRICS is a worldwide counterbalance mechanism, a ballast, if you will, to what's happening inside the Western world central banking cartel and the disconnection of the rest of the planet from that cartel. And BRICS has marketed itself and advertised itself as a trade bloc focused primarily on supporting the global South. Coming over to the next paragraph, to the extent that such a thing exists, this was no ordinary day at the Trump White House. Over the course of the previous 24 hours, the president was threatening to drop a 30,000-pound bomb on Iran's most precious nuclear facility buried deep in a mountainside. Now, I find that absolutely very interesting, Patriots, that that's the linguistics and the lingo that's being used here, because what has President Trump said about the stock market, about the Dow Jones? Where has the number 30,000 appeared before? We've seen the number 30,000 in various Q drops, referencing anons to really step back and get the bigger picture. We've seen President Trump talking about 30,000 with respect to worldwide markets and finance, certainly the Dow Jones here in the Western world. So coming over here, continuing, he made a series of menacing social media posts telling everyone in the Iranian capital to immediately evacuate. Then he gathered with his advisors in the Situation Room. Mr. Trump's political party erupted as the capital convulsed with talk of regime change in Iran. Now, if we come over here, Patriots, a little bit later this morning on the 18th of June, a little bit later in the morning, we saw the flag raisings happening on the South Lawn. And give me a moment here. I want each of you to see something very, very significant and symbolic. And it sort of adds yet another feather into the cap that this is primarily about the worldwide changeover in the financial arena rather than just the destruction of the intelligence community. In my opinion, you're seeing both of these objectives playing out in real time throughout this operation. Give me just a moment here. All right, Patriots, thank you for briefly bearing with me with this. I want each of you to pay careful attention to the attire that President Trump is wearing as we come through this particular flag-raising ceremony. We're going to watch a couple of minutes of this particular video. The other thing that I want each of you to focus very closely on is what is not on this flag that's being raised, again, on the soil of the White House for the very first time. Now, Patriots, if this is not an indication of what's actually at play here, both with this particular ceremony and what's going on around the world, I don't know what is. This is a bright goldenrod style. It's almost like a neon golden tie that President Trump has on. President Trump has worn this tie multiple times at different intersections over the last 4 years when he's been meeting with dignitaries, former heads of state, individuals associated with very large business influence organizations, both here domestically and around the world. There's been a golden tie mixed in with all of it. Give me a moment here. We're going to keep this playing. I'm going to bring the video forward just a little bit to avoid wasting any time. The operative part being just a little bit further up here. I want to be considerate for each of you out there. forward just a little bit more. Now, again, Patriots, this flag raising happened just a few days after the presentation of the flag that flew over D.C. prior during the Army's 250th parade. After that flag was presented both to the Commander-in-Chief and to Melania Trump by the Golden Knights. And who do the Knights serve in lore? Patriots, Knights are associated with religious and spiritual pulpits as well as monarchy pulpits. And so I find it very, very compelling that we have these dovetailing events in the same 7-day period. But if we look in the background here as the flag continues to go up, you'll notice that there is another flag which has been reinstalled on the top of the White House here, and that is the POW flag beneath the American flag, actually on top of the White House building itself. So the POW flag has been moved away from the grounding that it was on when it was moved to, during the first Trump presidency, and it was placed back on top of the White House during the period of the Biden-Manchurian years. And I believe what we're seeing here in real time is the communication that the military forces of the Republic of the United States have now reclaimed the jurisdiction over the soil of Washington, D.C. And for those out there who are paying very close attention, you'll notice that the flags now sunken into the White House grounds, as well as the American flag on top of the building above the POW flag, are missing a certain fringe and border. Patriots, as we reflect on how far we've come, it's helpful to remember that the world taking shape before us with each passing day, and increasingly more with each passing hour, is positioning the entirety of we the people in all of our respective cultures for that collective best shot at permanently eradicating the forces of evil. I would ask each of you to take a step back just a moment and allow your mind to wander as we close off our file today. How long has it been since you've thought about high wages and a low cost of living? How long has it been since you didn't worry about your children or grandchildren going outside on the sidewalk to play without constant supervision? When was the last time you disconnected, truly disconnected, from the fears, worries, and concerns of the world? I'll be honest, in my world, I sometimes struggle to pull myself back from these and other problems because, like all of you, I desire more than anything to see them resolved fully and permanently for our posterity. I was 15 years old when Natalie Holloway vanished in Aruba, and I did not understand at that time just how evil and how common those types of disappearances were, especially for Western world children and young adults. When I later underwent my own awakening of belief and understanding, which was instigated by the discovery of what all of us were consuming in our soft drinks, I quickly realized what had likely happened to that young, vibrant girl while she vacationed far beyond the constraints of U.S. law. I flat out rejected the existence of God in the immediate time period that followed my awakening, and I nearly walked away from spirituality altogether as I struggled to understand why evil was allowed to become so entrenched in the lives of ordinary men and women who only wished to get along with their peers and friends and carve out their niche in their little corner of the world. But over the last 15 years, I was not only brought back to the safe harbor of hope, power, and trust in God's perfect design by a love that I really can't adequately describe, but I also came to understand that restoring and rebuilding God's earth had to be done God's way, and that way can be summed up in the timeless words of the Messiah himself when he said, "Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and love thy neighbor as thyself." We are well on our way to that new earth, Patriots, and we will live to see the day where the types of fears and worries that we've carried for so long become laughable memories of an age gone by. Remember today who you belong to and whose child you are. This is the Great Awakening, and we the people are inevitable. This is SG and On. I'll be back with each of you again soon on the Q News Patriot Rumble. God bless everyone. Stay safe today. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. The Q News Patriot, Mr. SG and On. Good stuff right there. So, I didn't realize he was 5 years younger than me. Natalie Holloway disappeared like 2005, I think. So, anyway, let's see who's next up tonight. Wasn't a whole lot of stuff out tonight. I need to change my background. All right, we're going to take a look at another Derek Johnson interview.
Gentlemen, hey, go Army. You know, it was the 250th anniversary, Continental Army. So go Army all across the board, and to being spiritually awake. Cheers, gents. That's the most important. Beyond Patriot awake for sure. So welcome back. AJ, why don't you take the lead first? Because you're the chronologically, you got the A, I got the B, he's got the D. A to the B to the D to the mother chucking J on the Johnson.
Well,
you got the Jade. J squared.
Can you
How
hear me
you
all
doing?
right? Can you hear me okay?
Speak up, AJ, really loud, and do a couple jumping jacks if you don't mind. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Keep your shirt on. Keep your shirt on.
Exactly. It's been so serious the last 3 or 4 days. I see on almost everybody's channels, like, man, we ever get to like step back, law and order. Here we go. It's all good. So yeah, we can hear you, man. You're looking solid.
Cool.
You're looking solid. You might just want to do a couple more of these though. You know, get some shine on right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in the future over this way.
Excellent. So what's been going on in your neck of the woods since we last spoke a couple weeks ago, my good friend? It's great to see you on again.
Yeah. There's I've had a lot of really great people come into my life, if I'm honest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as we all do. I think as part of this stage of growth for us all and how we're evolving, I've had some really great people come into my life who've connected with me. Off the back of like seeing what me and Corin do, you know, with our business and that, but it's they've been very cool to like come and see us and spend time here and sit with the medicine and stuff like that, which is amazing. But like it's what they bring to the party. You know, you know, we had a lady around today, for example, who drove all the way from Scotland.
Wow, nice.
Just to sit with Cambo. But she's you know, she won't mind me saying, but she's a walk-in from 7 years ago, so she's got like all these keys and codes, and like she's been walking around Scotland basically, ridding a lot of the demonic lines and doing work on Blackpool Tower, which is the most satanic tower in the UK. And you know, like, I didn't know anything about this woman like this until she was in our house and shared it with us. So we're getting a lot of you know, kind of high spec people coming into our field now, and you know, they're sharing a lot of valuable information and they're connecting with us because at a deeper level they're supposed to, and sharing a lot of like intel and information. And I was even sat with one of my mentors the other day, and yeah, he was sharing. He's very galactic. Literally lives in a little cottage in the middle of nowhere. And his mum thinks he's a communist. So, you know, go figure. But he's sharing about like airspace, for example, and how, you know, we're getting the comms that it's all over, you know, the United States are occupying airspace and stuff like that. But Donald Trump, as you guys know, he's just saying we. You know, there's no actual, the US are occupying this airspace. It's all very much we. So, you know, a lot of people are going into fear. You know, I get a lot of messages saying that, oh, the Brits and the Americans are now at war because they're occupying airspace. Well, the airspace is a big place, right? And they forget that Cyprus is literally just a stone throw across the water from Israel, for example, and there's American and American and UK bases there, and has been for a long time, and for a reason. So, you know, the jets are going to leave the air bases there and kind of fortify that area, right, as a solid aid of protection. But my friend was sharing with me about how, you know, this is very much the airspace is literally controlled worldwide by from a galactic level. We're just seeing the optics and I guess what we need to see, you know, as a human population, because while, as you know, while all this is happening, you know, the financial system's weaving its way in as it should, in the background. So it's like we're all being, not all of us, but like, you know, beyond the people who can see it, is being put into fear and the brink of World War III. And that's what a lot of people are saying, like, oh, do you think we're on the brink of World War III? And I'm like, guys, we've been on the brink of World War III since World War II. You know, we're constantly on a war timeline for a reason. And this is why, you know, Q always says, like, Israel is last, because it is the stronghold and precipice of evil, you know, that has, you know, along with obviously the Vatican and City of London and DC, which are very much under control. You can tell, as I'm sure you'll elaborate on with like the comms from the G7 summit and stuff like that. So yeah, but you know, just been connecting with a lot of great people, and just run a retreat in Portugal. Ended up sitting in the mountains in Montchique, which is like a sacred mountain, with our shamans who built their house by hand. You know, pure running water, TP. Like, it was really quite profound. Everyone had an amazing experience. So I've just come back from there. Yeah, so it was further education for myself, really, on moving forward. And yeah, since I've come back, like, every day is pretty much like an ayahuasca ceremony, mate. It's just like you know, can you chuck any more at us? But it's all fun. It's all part of this movie we find ourselves in, right? And as everyone can see, the characters are coming out to play.
Yeah, they certainly are. By the way, I was talking to Marky D, our friend. He called me just before we came on, so he says hello to you, gents. And he had some interesting news to share too. But yeah, absolutely incredible. Yeah, Mark B, I think he's watching us right now. So salute to you, good man. So Derek, over to you, my friend. You know, you haven't been anything but busy since last week when we had our live recording album number 5, plus pumping out all the consistency on the comms and whatnot. What do you think about what our brother AJ in the UK is saying here? And by the way, everybody, all links for Derek and for AJ are right below the description. And obviously, I've got to update the link to missionconsciousness.com from MrAJRoberts.com. But you can still find him on there as he's expanding missionconsciousness.com over in the UK. So over to Rattle Trap.
Well, I mean, I love what AJ said about we've been on the brink of World War III since World War II. I mean, you know, I try to tell people all the time, I'm like, look, if you can go back to before 2016, when President Trump, there was a line drawn in the sand. Now, all three of us know that line was already strategized and planned long before it was visually drawn. But for the people out there who might see this later, you know, that line was drawn in the sand. There's a clear difference of what's going on right now and the past. So what I tell people is, you go back to that line and what you and I and all of us grew up, every one of us living, breathing, walking right now, we're in that era as well. If you could tell me that the United States alone, economy was great and everything else was great, then no one would have a reason to complain right now or anything they're doing. So, you know, we were always in a brink before that. You got to go look at what President Trump's doing. What I think is hilarious first, before we get there too, on top of that, is the liberals of the 90s were yelling, no war, no war for oil, no war. That was your liberals. And they were correct. Those people that were chanting that are more than likely patriots right now. Like, that were sitting on the fence. They were independent. They really weren't liberal. A lot of those people voted for President Trump. All right, because they get it and they know what's going on. So, but your traditional liberal yells what? No war, no war, no war. All the liberals right now were chanting for Ukraine to keep prolonging the war with Russia. And now we have Republicans, conservatives, and patriots who are jumping ship with President Trump and don't realize what's going on, but they visually give off that they're jumping ship, and they're saying, not our war. I'm like, so now the Republicans, conservatives, patriots, not real patriots, as we know, but they're saying they're replicating true liberals. So it's like, we have fully completed a full counter psyop. If we can just get them to realize, hey, you probably don't want to post those things, especially if you're an influencer, because we're running a strategic military operation here. And that's what President Trump's doing. So when you go back to President Trump, he always said, He called out lobbyists, defense contractors. All right, said they keep us in wars. He was alluding to the real swamp. It wasn't just Congress. They were being controlled by the real swamp back here, the mafia and all the cabal that you and I, all of us know, these different mafias, right? So 1979 answers everything. Why do we have, I don't know how old you are exactly, but I know I'm 42, right? So why do we have an executive order with a national emergency in the United States of America? Did you hear me? A national emergency that is 46 years old, older than me. It's not an emergency anymore. And that national emergency and executive order is from Jimmy Carter, and it's with Iran. So if we did get involved with Iran, we have full-fledged reason to, because President Trump would be ending whatever it was promised to Iran all that time, and or whatever they were doing, the horrible deal that Obama made that President Trump started hammering straight out the gate. So this is all pre-planned. And when you have evidence of a continuity government, which you do, Executive Order 13961, all right, it was partially revoked on January the 19th this year, partially revoked, which means we're still in a COG and we're still in a military occupation. When you have evidence of a COG, you also have evidence of presidential emergency action documents, which expand the power of our president, expands his power, all right, and it's pre-drafted and pre-planned. All right, so everything right now, no, even if President Trump walked out and farted on a microphone, I know that's grotesque for some people, it would be pre-planned. It would have some calm for him to fart on a microphone. So everything's pre-planned within that 45-47. So no one should be jumping ship right now. No one should be fearful. That's another thing. I know some people get fearful. I'm not saying not to pray. I'm not anti-praying. I'm all about prayer. But when you see people out there, oh, pray for our nation, this is all pre-planned, ladies and gentlemen. So you should have been pre-praying. But God knows my heart. I'm not being sacrilegious. This has all been planned. Everything's in good hands. And it's like President Trump, he plays everybody, even the average people that claim to be patriots. He plays people. And it's not that he's doing it on purpose, but it ends up looking that way, where they get everybody stirred up. And then within a day or two or three, bam, he lays it on you. We have full control of the skies over Iran. And look what everybody did in that day or two there. Hysterical jumping. Look at all the platforms who people follow, who jump ship with President Trump. Now look how crazy they look. And that's where it becomes personal, especially to all veterans, but especially guess who's in control of the skies? The Air and Missile Defense System, my MOS. So I don't know. I love what's going on. I don't like that people are fearful, but if we can't get to everybody, but the ones we can get to, no reason to fear. All you need are AJ's arms, Brad's positivity, and his sovereign Buddha spirit, right? That's all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need. There you go. And maybe some water, some food, and a little bit of kumbaya.
Yeah, well, we got to keep you going. Yeah, we got to keep you alive. So.
Exactly. And, to the comms effect, Ted Cruz was just outed on Tucker Carlson, defending AIPAC. And that's pretty powerful, as well as what we just saw with President Trump today at the flag ceremony at the White House, the two flags, North and South Lawn, being raised. And he said, in the beginning, you guys were hunting me. I'm hunting all of you. And that was an amazing quote in a press conference. And I just want to play this video. We played it last week, Derek and I. And for anybody who's coming in from AJ's audience to see this, we talk about the pre-planning. This goes back that are actual comms directly from Trump. So thanks to Anon on X for putting this video together. It's about 2 minutes. Here you are, everybody. Tune in to this.
Each of you enters service at a truly exciting time for our country. For we are witnessing the great reawakening. With this strategy, we are calling for a great reawakening of America. Now we are calling for a great reawakening of nations, for the revival of their spirits,
their pride, their people, and their patriotism.
On September 19, 2017, Trump called for a great reawakening of nations in his UN speech. On October 6, 2017, Trump said it was the calm before the storm, and on October 28, 2017, he dropped the first post.
You guys know what this represents? Well, I don't know, maybe it's the calm before the storm. What's the storm? Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out. You guys know what this represents? And somebody that's been with me from day one, he's a real general. You know, we have the real generals, and we have the fake woke generals that did so poorly in Afghanistan, should have all been fired. But this is a real general, Keith Kellogg. Right, Keith? And this is a great group. It's good to see you, Keith. He's been with me from before day one, right? He said, that guy should run. We got to get him to run. I like those guys. They were here before I ran. You know, there's quite a few of them. General Flynn, along with General Kellogg, and some of our other friends. We have so many friends. We have over 200 generals and admirals supporting us now. We had 17 Congressional Medal of Honor winners endorse me. When I first came here, I was only in Washington 17 times in my life.
Oh, looks like Brad's frozen.
He just loves the video that much.
He is. Well, I don't know what questions he had, but I guess we could roll on with a few things maybe. We weren't expecting this. Well, maybe we should screenshot that though. Oh, there he goes. He did something.
It's not in my script.
Yeah, well, I don't have anything on me here. Like, oh, there he is. He's back.
Just the Wi-Fi down here. I'm near the Panamanian border, so you know it even gets worse the more further out you go. You know, you're like 2 hours from any grocery store or whatnot, gas station. Just how it is at the moment. But you know, just showing you in terms of comms, right? So 51st G7 summit in what everybody's calling Canada 51st state or Alberta the separation referendum 51st state. Trump was wearing an American flag on his suit, and then right below that, a Canadian and American flag beside each other. So the comms are pretty strong. I like this one, by the way, if everyone wants to laugh, when he met Mark Carney, Epstein Islander, stolen election, total deep state Satanists, and the actor playing Carney right now in Kananaskis, Alberta. So really, really powerful, I think, what was coming out of there. And when he stepped off the plane at Calgary Airport, stepped off Air Force One, and came down the stairs wearing the white MAGA hat, white hat, like AJ's often wearing a white hat on his podcast, saying, "Make America Great Again." And then he had 45-47 and Trump on the back, and he's been wearing it for 5 days straight since the 250th anniversary of the American Army, which, by the way, what a great calm there. King, Queen, and Knight. Chess moves, you know, with him and Melania. And then you have the U.S. Army Golden Knights. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, very impressive.
Well, I think what's impressive too is he went from a red hat to black to white. That also could have a calm with it, showing, you know, that the worst days, which I've been trying to tell people, the worst days are over. And we're leaving a partial continuity government. That means we're moving closer to our constitutional government again. So there's that. And then you can go back to the speech. If you'll remember, it don't seem like it's been that long ago, Brad. It's when you and I met, but in September 2022. But if you move forward just a little bit further, I think it was maybe in 2023 early or maybe mid 2023. That seems so long ago now, but That was with the Biden speech where he did all the Hitler moves. It was a replica of the Hitler speech with every single move he made. And it was dark. Remember, it was black and it had the red columns. And the Marine Corps was standing there, and they weren't real Marine Corps in the first place. Their uniforms, they were all, their ranks showed that they were specialists and below, and they were wearing senior NCO military uniforms, which is against regulations of the Marine Corps. But also what that replicated was what you mentioned with the chess moves. You know, people still got to always remember the moving pieces here. What President Trump, he's a 5D chess player. This is all a chess piece. And so that was right when the Queen had died, right? Even though they told everybody on BBC Live that day she'd been laying in state for 4 years, but still, the ones that flew over, that was right then. And in chess, the Queen protects the Queen. All right, so when the king is trapped, it would be better to do this if all, well, I have to pick one of you, so I'll pick on Brad because AJ's got bigger arms. So Brad, if he and I were playing chess, yeah, I could beat him if I wanted. But sometimes it's more humiliating to trap the king and make the king raise the white flag and give up. Because then if the king has something that, you know, possibly population needs to hear, then you make the king surrender and give up, but say, when you surrender, this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to tell the people what's going on. And so that was a replica of what it was. When I said replica, it was a visual, even though it was an optic of the Queen's out of the picture now, and Biden, the real Biden, but even without quotations, the real Biden, the Senator Biden, and the Vice President, the Biden crime family, as President Trump calls them. He wasn't a criminal in the last 4 years for the ones that thought he was president. He's been a criminal for all of his career. One of the major cronies out of this. So that visual that was given parlays into that right there too, because all of this is pre-planned. And draining the swamp didn't just mean Democrats and liberals, ladies and gentlemen. So all these Republicans who are getting roasted, all these people, when you put your whole faith into a TV personality or even an influencer who doesn't have like substance, that same thing what you're wishing with, you know, with Tucker and all these other people. Boy, the people jumped ship this week whenever President Trump showed that photo of him in a boxing suit and over the top of Tucker and knocking him out. You know, all these people are jumping ship, but you got to remember the swamp was deep, and he told everybody. President Trump himself said it was even deeper than I could imagine. So he's telling everybody that even he didn't realize how deep the swamp was. Of course, that was a couple of years ago.
Awesome. Just a quick one, Derek, when you're speaking, if you can mute, something has to be muted when you're speaking for the background echo. And I want to say hi to everybody in the comments, and then over to AJ. We have people from Australia, Norway, from Quebec, all across Canada, and then all the way down to Costa Rica with Carol Marine. You're going to be running a retreat there in Costa Rica next year, AJ, through Mission Consciousness, and a whole bunch of great old Americans that we've seen here many times, from Florida to Texas, you name it. So it's fantastic. We've got this great audience, and we appreciate it. Over to you, Mr. Rogers. I don't know, man. I think we're going to have to do a flex contest at some point in time, Derek. You know?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, so there's obviously, as much as there's comms coming out from Trump, and, you know, Derek explained it really well there, the level of the swamp so deep that, you know, it's often overlooked just how deep it is in the UK. And you know, for the benefit of the people that don't really know what's going on in the UK, there's obviously two main political parties like you have over in the States that have been kind of like swapping and changing power all under the same bullshit, you know, same bullshit, different day. However, there's another party which obviously Nigel Farage heads up, the Reform Party, and very much a neutral party. And regardless of what you think of Nigel Farage, there's actually people that have been installed through Reform, and it's clear and obvious into very particular positions. So we have the new mayor of Lincolnshire, which, funny enough, is where I am. Andrea Jenkins, and daily she is like saying about making changes to all the wokeism that has infiltrated, not just this country but all countries, and everything down to the climate change bollocks. And she's active using the party, because that's what people are used to, right? They're used to seeing a party and someone to vote for and someone to look for. They're using that as ammunition, basically, to kind of awaken people and get people to question stuff. And to me, it seems that like all the stuff she's calling for is like they're being guided by the executive orders, like especially 13818 and 13848, the interference with the elections, because there was obviously a lot of Labour Party personnel who actively said they're getting on a flight, pre the recent elections, who are all anti-Trump, right? So they're all showing their cards. They're all interfering with elections. And what's happening now is, obviously there's a lot of comms around Keir Starmer, or the actor. There's literally waking people up daily. Like these new bills that are coming out in the UK are just sort of like anti-human, everything. So that it's doing that job that way in the UK. But like these people in Reform are actually now in the councils as councillors, and they're now running their own version of Doge. And just the same as it was in the States, there's millions and millions and millions of spent and corrupt money that's all there on show that they're bringing to the forefront in major councils across the UK. Andrea Jenkins is very much showing everybody like that we don't want solar farms on agricultural land. Like we don't want migrants in hotels. So what she's saying, like if they're happy enough to stay in tents in France, then they can stay in tents in England. And we'll put veterans in our hotels. So she's actively saying that as a neutral party representative outside of your norm, and it's actually getting people questioning a lot of stuff. So it's working quite well. And there's daily things happening in England. Like there's protests and then there's things kicking off. There's constant footage of migrants, from these hotels that are running ravage and, going out preying on kids, preying on women and stuff like that. So in terms of the swamp, there's a massive amount of swamp members in the UK that are kind of being forced to be exposed to the public eye as well, which is really important. It's not just about these major key players like in presidential and governmental positions around the world. There's like, heads of police, there's mayors of the mayor of Manchester. We've got the inquiry, whether it's just another inquiry or not, is bringing it forward about the state of the grooming gangs here in England. The Pakistani grooming gangs, which have just been all squashed and all protected by, funny enough, Keir Starmer when he was head of Crown Prosecution Services between 2008 and 15, I think it was. But now there's a whole list of people that have been named in there who are still involved with government now. So, they're all being exposed that way. It's quite, it's as it is with everything, has been like since like COVID and even before that. Every country swamp members have got to be dealt with in a different way. Like UK currently doesn't have a President Trump, and that masculine energy brings with his whole team and all these different people in different departments. We've got a very corrupt government from top to bottom, and you can definitely see they're using members of Reform to drive home executive orders from the States, because obviously, the States is a corporation, we're a corporation, and we all very much come under the same banner. Same with Canada, obviously. So we're definitely seeing a lot of that, and I think there's a lot's happening in Australia as well. They're bringing out these crazy bills in Australia, which are, waking the people up, and it seems to be the way to do it. So it's keeping people in chaos, and as I say to a lot of times, now is the time. Like, can you actually turn the lens inwards for a change instead of looking outside and walk through the chaos? Because I think that's what like humanity and as a whole in each country are being really tested with at the minute.
Hey, go ahead, Derek. I missed a little bit of because my Wi-Fi dropped and came back. So go ahead, Derek. On to you, my friend. A little bit of because my Wi-Fi dropped. Came back.
We didn't talk trash about you or anything, so it's all good. We missed our opportunity, AJ. We had it. It would have been a complete surprise when he edited this.
I know.
But I don't think is the feedback on my side? I don't think is the feedback on my side?
No, that's all good to me.
Okay, well, I'm talking, but then I hear myself talking like 3 seconds later. But
It's all right. It's not like a broadcast network here. People are getting this for free, and this is the information that gets out. Not hey, that's what matters. If there's a touch of an echo, we all deal with it. It's life where we are right now, everyone. So yeah, go for it, man. It's a touch of echo for some people, but nothing crazy. It's all good.
So coming on top of what AJ's talking about, what I can do is tell people too that to remind people, it's not really telling some. There's a lot of patriots in the comment boxes, but for people to see it later or might be seeing it now, but have this question. A military occupation is a parameter that's set around, meaning it's a strategy and it's a parameter. It doesn't mean that people are supposed to sit back. Like I've been telling the patriots, the people who were just, I wouldn't say patriots. Let's go back to Republicans, conservatives in our country who were just so anxious for President Trump to be back in the office and then go, fine. No, like we have a parameter set. And like AJ said, I know people get tired of hearing that you got to see it. But sometimes resistance, sometimes chaos, sometimes those things are what make people wake up. It's what people get involved because when they feel like they've been pressed up against the wall, well, are you going to lay down and get bit by the snake, or are you going to fight back and be the snake? What are you going to do? And so the parameter's been set. And that parameter means that the military as a whole and this operation won't let things get out of hand this way. But they still want to see people get involved, no different than congressmen and women who all these years, a few of us in the U.S. have called or emailed or gone in person to say, man, why did you say what you said? That's not what I voted for you. But see, when they don't have enough people who voted for them going in there as a drove and as a massive group saying, we didn't vote for this, you're accountable for this, you're my representative, you're supposed to be. These congressmen and women have been getting away with this for years. So if they can get away with it, think about all the other riffraff that's been going on. And that's why when you hear people say stuff like, well, if child trafficking exists, why wouldn't I see it more? That kind of attitude right there is exactly why it does exist. It's because you don't know the language, the verbiage, and you also don't know your responsibilities and your accountabilities and your rights as a human being, just being a decent human being. So it's why it had to come to this. I love President Trump, but even for the people out there that just can't seem to grasp it, I say you have President Trump because of all these past attitudes and because of your lack of responsibilities and your lack of accountability for all these years. So now you're having to see it. But thank God there's still men out there who know what's going on, know what's been going on, but also willing to combat this the right way. So like Iran, if we have to, we will. And we have every right to if we have to. No matter what it takes. But I've never heard, and I'm not taking up for Israel, but I don't even care, but I've never heard the U.S., I've never heard Israel, I've never heard any other nation chanting death to the USA and death to Israel except for Iran. So I don't know how anybody could be taken up for any kind of rhetoric or such. The parameter has been set. And that's what's going on. The trafficking's been cleaned out at magnitudes out there. So, but it don't mean we got to sit back. It don't mean we're supposed to sit back and kick back and go, oh, well, God wins. That attitude also doesn't get anywhere. We've got to maintain and sustain this on the flip side. And what AJ's been doing, boots on the ground, what Brad's been doing, what Brad and I did in 2022, what I'm doing in my capacity, what all of us are doing right now is how we maintain and sustain it, because the people that matter are these generations after us. These 20-year-olds who are still going to college and they think college is about drinking and partying. and none of them have a clue what's going on right now, one single strand of one single law or order, that's the future that we have to get to. So our work is not done.
Yeah, and I was just, like looking at some, because of personal reasons.
It's a big mission.
It's not coming around. So delays on my end, I think. Yep.
Very good.
So delays on my end.
You sound good to me.
So due to personal reasons, 2 weeks ago, I ended up being around a few teenagers, American teenagers, and for a week. And they were, all family, but they were like this, the phone sucked to the face all day long. And the only way you could get them off the phone is, hey, look, there's a wave out there. Let's try surfing. And that's the only time. Beyond that, they're stuck like this, stuck on the phone, and whatever shows up in TikTok or whatever somebody says, that is gospel to them. So they are college kids in America, exactly to your point, Derek, who are believing every single TikTok video. And that is what their life is when it comes to anything political. And they really aren't very political because they're busy watching Beyonce and talking about Jay-Z and Taylor Swift's next concert, right? So that's where they still are. And those are the generations that we want to protect. And we've got to do what we can do right now as literally digital warriors in this regard to awaken people both to this plan and then also awaken them spiritually as well, because religion's a wall. And we need to break out that wall about the truth, and that more of that truth is coming out, like Bishop Joe O'Connor has been sharing, right? 777 books of the Bible and everything that goes into the real past and the history of mankind on this planet and prior to us being on this planet. Because people look through things at such a small lens, right? And we have a grandiose master story of this entire universe and the cosmos, which we all belong to. We've all been a part of before, and we're all here. And so we got to break people out of that quote unquote box, right? That the mental box, the TV box, everything's in a box. You live in a house, it's a box. You drive a car, it's more or less a box. Unless it's one of those crazy new ones, the smart cars they have coming out, standard militarized and residential technologies. Disgusting, right? All across the way. Over to you, AJ. What do you think about that from the story that we need to make sure that people are waking up to now as you're moving through with Mission Consciousness in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of what we do is obviously like focus on consciousness en masse, but with our live events and with our online community and stuff like that. But, there's very few young people that come to, because they don't get it, they're very absorbed with, like, exactly like Derek was saying and you were saying about what's going on in their cell phone, and that's why it's called a cell phone, because it keeps your mind in a cell. It keeps it in the mind prison of the five senses, and we can talk like any conspiracy you want, right? We can give you an answer for, but what people need to understand is that, like, the biggest truth of everything above all of that, which is everything's designed to stop you from realizing, is who you actually are. Okay, so when you understand who you actually are, you understand how powerful you are as a human being, right? You're not distracted. You can discern all the bullshit. Power. You can see, and you see everything with a big wide lens, right? But this isn't a wide lens, and it's exactly the same here in the UK. I was literally having breakfast with my dad yesterday. And you could just, we always sit there and observe, and you look at the state of everywhere. And I've done a video on it and put it out across different platforms about how, what these phones do and all the other stuff do, the marketing, it plugs people into the inorganic AI grid, right? So we've got the inorganic AI grid system, and we've got the organic grid system where all the truths are, all the ancient wisdom, all the rest of it. Like, that's what they don't want us connected to. Right. Everything down to ley line, everything down a ley line and stuff, that's all the organic grid. You've got
in the Vatican library the inorganic too, with all their texts of this as well.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, so the phones, the TVs, the influencers, the energy drinks, Like all of this stuff plugs people into the inorganic grid, so that's how they live their life, right? They're plugged into this system, literally like the Matrix shows you. So like it's the same across places in America, Australia now. UK is horrendous for it. Most high streets are literally full now of, like proper old businesses don't exist. They're full of vape shops, fake grocery stores which just sell energy drinks, sweets and stuff like that. You've got nail bars, which obviously stop the light transcending through your body because you're putting chemicals on your nails. You've got obviously kebab shops, like all this stuff full of seed oils, and it's all immigrants that come in and set up these businesses, right? But they're programmed to. That's the whole point. There's nothing against them. They're just they're like trying to earn a living, but they're all programmed to do this because it heavily poisons the natives, calcifies the pineal gland, literally dumbs the person down. Then everyone's surrounded by 5G towers, 4G towers, like all of it. So you've got constant EMF like battering your body at a cellular level, whilst getting inflamed like hell. And then so people are looking for the next thing all the time, that dopamine hit on the phone. And you only have to go past most bus stops, like on a school day, and you just see all these kids headphones in, just plugged, looking down. None of them speak to each other, and then like most of them are scared to speak in front of people nowadays. They won't get on a microphone and speak their feelings. They keep everything locked in. And like Derek said, like this generation is the generation we need to help really, because they're actually super powerful kids, and so you can see why they've been targeted. And we speak about whether it's child trafficking or poisoning them, it's like everything's about an attack on the kids, because they're the powerful ones. They're the ones that are like here to do the real work. We're like the way showers really. Us crusty old farts. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, but we're here to dismantle a lot of it and teach, and pass on that. and pass on that wisdom though. You know what I mean? Like the great man up there, and grandfathers will like it from World War II. They pass all that wisdom down to us, right? But a lot of people in their 60s and 70s, like they've just worked their entire life, paid their mortgage and just paid their taxes and watched the news relentlessly, their dinner in their lap, and taught their kids to do the same. So it's like we've been the ones over the last few years, millions of people like us around the world, to regain that wisdom, that remembrance, and bring it forward, put our faces on camera week in, week out, and to teach the kids. But this is why they're absorbed with all this other bullshit, is to keep them away from the exact kind of stuff that we're trying to teach, teaching them. Look, put all that down, put all the toxins down, and start working on yourself and realise how powerful you are. That's the kind of like the main message. But it's a massive mission in itself, because you can see the job that's been done on these youngsters, whether it's here in the UK. Wherever you are right now, and in the States, it's the same everywhere, like in Western countries. You can see the attack using multiple different agendas to keep these youngsters dumbed down, hooked on sport, living in a box, traveling in a box, and keeping their mind in that mind prison of the five senses.
Yeah, exactly. Hook them up to HEK239, human embryonic kidney cells, feed them dead babies in their Coca-Cola, their Pepsi, all types of sodas, and then do all of that. And we have all been captured too. And we're speaking out here as we have had our awakening moments at every step, nutritionally, patriotically, corporation versus sovereignty, right? Republic versus USA Inc., you name it. The Federal Reserve System versus true national treasure, and the Treasury, and the cartel of the banking cartel, as well as who's the real criminal transnational crime syndicate cartels. Well, most of it all flows back to City of London. You got your military establishment that was Washington, D.C., and then you've got your religion, your establishment in the Vatican, and then they set up numerous other ones as well and pit people against each other, just like politics, right? And that creates that divisiveness rather than, hey, you like your food one way with curry, and you make some really good curries, like, good shout out to AJ's mom, who owns a pub and a brew house in the UK and has a good pints and curries, but hey, somebody else might do fish. And you're like, man, I like fish over here and I like curry. Some people like to combine the curry and the fish. And you know what? You got a great dish. When you have that type of diversity, get rid of the inclusion and the equity and all that, right? So, all right, let's talk about this. By the way, comments for Derek. There's Whiskey Tango Foxtrot in here, says wants to buy an autographed CD, loves your music. And another comment was replied to by Bill Wright 76, says, I'm in construction, play Derek's music all day long on Spotify. It's awesome. So if anybody needs to, you go to rattletrap1776.com. In the United States corporate boundary right now, if you live in any of those 50 states, lower 48 too, you can get it directly from Derek. You will get signed copies of Midnight Rider 1, 2, and the Royal Flush Country Music. Definitely buy all three if you can. And that will come from Derek. So he doesn't have CDs, but you still get his autograph and go straight to you. And if you're anywhere around the world outside the corporate lines of the USA, go to Amazon to get his books and his stuff, and that'll ship to you anywhere in the world as well. And then for AJ, missionconsciousness.com, you can get in touch with his retreats as well. So just shouting out to all of you guys, right? Got to edify, stroke the ego a little bit. Now, with all the incredible information that you guys have, that people should really hold on to and turn around and embody and harness and share with others. So that's my personal opinion. Over to you, DJ. Not the DJT, but the DJ who hangs out with DJT, professional grifter, 13, 14, 15 times hanging out with Trump and all of his properties. What do you think between now and Dominion Day, July 1st, and then July 4th? And I'll set this up with, by the way, when Trump showed up late to the G7 and left early on the Marine One as well as Air Force One. I was told, I didn't see this though on Air Force One, the American flag was backwards, not upside down, backwards. I don't know. People are saying that in the chat. There might be a comm there. I don't know if you have it. But anyway, if you don't, between now and July 1st and July 4th, what do you feel might be coming up for the world that we anticipate based on what Trump is saying today? Taking hits at the Fed, knocking them big time and what they're doing. And I know that gas prices are going up in some places too, which is also interesting, I find.
Well, so, there's an old joke in the U.S. that an older fellow, he got bored in his retirement. He went down to Walmart and he wanted a job, and they gave him a greeter job at the door. And he showed up late for work one day, and he showed up late again, and he showed up late again. They pulled him in to the office and said, hey, you're starting to show a trend of being late for work, and just wanted to know, how did that fare in the military? Because you're a veteran. And he said, well, when I showed up late, he said, no matter how late I was, gentleman walked in and said, hey, General, how would you like your coffee today? And so, with President Trump showing up late and leaving early, he is showing everybody how he is the commander, the supreme commander of the world. There's a huge difference in a president and a wartime president. There's a huge difference. And so, that's what you're witnessing. And, so that's cool there. The American flag backwards on Air Force One has been like that. The United States Army set this standard with the flag. We are the first branch. I know all the other jokes out there, but when we wear our flag on uniform, it's backwards because it's a symbol of we're always moving forward. So if you look at the flag as it's flying, it means we're always moving forward. There's nothing major about that as far as another kind of calm. But where we're going, President Trump, giving you the dates. I found that video. Someone found it for me, where he had a specific speech 2 years ago where he said, May Memorial Day 2025 is your starter, and then July 4, 2026. So we will celebrate every single day in between, and then every single day after July 4, 2026. So you're in that parameter now. And, you know, like I tell people, you just got to take it one day at a time. I mean, if other people would put that foundation there, that's why it's so humorous to me to watch all these. I mean, there's some big blue badges who are jumping ship right now and saying certain things that they're going to lose their credibility, because the more people who find out about the blueprint that I have, and it's not just about me, it's not about that, but there is a blueprint. There's a strategic plan and blueprint of what's taking place. So the more people who find that, these people are going to lose credibility, and that's also part of that. I think that's how we move into an age of what we're talking about. This right here, always in your face, that we can't sustain that way. There's no way we're going to sustain that way. So somehow, some way, we're going to have to get control of the communications out there, and that's why President Trump said he would seek to amend the Section 230 of the Communications Act, because again, there's too many people trying to be a name, too many people trying to be a leader right now, and don't even realize this is a military operation. And then your children out there, the children out there who are just stuck in their phones, there has to be something that's going to shape the world in a matter of everyone's attention. And because we do have children in their phones all the time, and we're not talking about just children, we're talking about college kids and adults, what better way than to use the emergency alert system in a positive manner, not a doomsday effect. But can you imagine sitting in AJ's mom's pub or a pub anywhere, right? You're supposed to be neutral. No one's talking about politics. You're sitting there having a brew. You're sitting there conversating with your buddies, your family, your friends, whatever. And all of a sudden, all the TVs, boop, 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 sports bars all around the nation, boop, 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 all the TVs, all the phones swap over to nothing but officials, leaders all around the world. They have Obama, they have Big Mike, Michelle, whatever you want to call her. You have Obama, you have Bush, George W., you have Laura, you have Bill and Hillary, you have all these people come out, right? And then flop that mask off. I mean, would that not take people to the ground? Would that not make people go, what did I just watch? And they can't move their phone. They can't go to another app. It stays on there. And then they can't change the TV. The only way to get out of it is to walk outside. I don't know. It seems like a perfect strategy. But we shall see. But, you know, we are in a partial cog. So we're on the better side. And you know, the red, the black, the white. We're in the better part. So it's all coming to some kind of, you know, a funnel, right? And they've ostracized all the deep state. They've alienated all them. They've eliminated them. I went back and was looking at one of President Trump's truths from 2 years ago, where he had truthed another, it was an article, but then when you click on it, it did what the one did the other day. And it was saying how Soros was executed in 2020. So when you do all these things, the world will have to see something of that nature. They will have to be some kind of hard disclosure, not soft, somehow, some way, because the only way we can flip all this after what we've been through and to not stay in the same old rigmarole, there's going to have to be something like that. And we're approaching that rapidly. Got to be. I don't see us going to 2029. I mean, 47 does end on January the 20th, 2029. I don't see us going that far because so many people are fatigued and growing fatigued. And so, you know, hang on to your britches in a good way. I mean, I love what's going on because, you know, we're all living through I mean, it's never going to happen again like this, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. I mean, you're watching with the military being on the streets. There had to be a constitutional reason and law for our regular military to be on the streets. And there is. It's all in law. So we don't want that to happen on a daily basis. No. So that shows this is a specific operation, and there will be a close to that. And with the close, as AJ knows, and Brad in military, you have to have a joint stability as well. And we have joint stability publications. So,
well, to that point, look at ICE, right? The one thing I purposely left out here for people to bring into the conversation and the notes for the show is ICE. So you've just had millions have deported, or 1 million was said to have self-deported. Then you've got ICE being backed by military across every major city in the states, so that the citizens, the people, don't freak out when they see military on the streets. And now you have a reason. Those auspices have been created for military to be in the cities in a public way, where the people have accepted it based on what they saw in Los Angeles. Brilliant.
It's a genius strategy. I mean, you can't get it. I mean, we got to give hats off. We know good and well your generals, General Travisy, General Valalay. I mean, all of them are, they.
You just called Norman Travisy a general. He's going to love it. But yeah, he's definitely worthy of it. And Major General Paulie Valalay, U.S. Army.
What's all the general? This Valalay and Mac. Well, no, the other one you're on with.
Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, 3-star, was the 3rd in the U.S. Air Force. 407 combat missions in Vietnam is what he flew.
I thought there was another one.
Major General Valalay. Yep.
Well, Valalay, I know him, but
Major General Valalay. Yep. Yep. Who
what was Travisy?
First?
I thought he was a general.
What was Travisy? Well, in a public way, but not military. He was firefighter of the year in Canada in 2003, voted by all his peers. But again, here's a man who took Trudeau and the RCMP, charged them criminally for treason, fraud, and human and child sex trafficking in the criminal charges in the lawsuit in that case, and they refused to let him in the courtroom to get the case heard, and that's what got him to receive a thank you letter from President Trump in 2020, because he briefed the American Embassy and the Mexican Embassy on July 1st, 2020, when USMCA went live and said, hey, here you go. Section 27, RICO, now you got to investigate all of the Crown Corporation of Canada, because here's the criminal lawsuit in SNC Lavalin, which I sued with the help of some great behind-the-scenes Canadian patriots, and they refused to allow that lawsuit to go through. Here's the volumes of evidence. And that's when President Trump sent him a thank you letter for all that work.
Well, in my defense, there's 4,600 retired generals, so there's no way to know them all.
Exactly.
Well, in the U.S. alone, that's just U.S. That's not everybody.
So, don't forget the admirals.
Yeah, that's just U.S. That's not. Oh well, yeah. I mean, there's it may be more now. The last count they officially took was, I think, maybe 8 years ago. So there's got to be more than that now. But yeah.
Nice. Well, gentlemen, it's been an honor being back on with you here. We're going to wrap it up in a minute. AJ, you want to tell everybody what you've got coming up for Mission Consciousness? Because we've got folks in Europe right now watching, so they might, want to jump in, whether it's drive from Scotland or fly over from Norway to connect with you, or maybe book a retreat in Costa Rica next year with you through Mission Consciousness. So give yourself a good plug, and then over to Derek, and we'll wrap up, everybody. And thank you so much for everyone in the comments. So give yourself a good plug, and then over to Derek. We'll wrap up, everybody.
No, you're welcome. And I echo that. Thank you everyone for chipping in and putting your voices in the comments. It's always it's a very important, actually, doing interactive podcasts like this. You mentioned earlier about it's not live, mainstream media broadcast, but they don't interact with the people that have been following our work and, that are on the same age as us and are just, singing the same songs as we are. So it's really important, that people keep that going, and it gives people that hope, and I say hope lightly. I think hope's quite a light word. We got to get into this concept of we absolutely know, it's a deep knowing within us all that we are going in the right direction and everything good is actually happening. We just got to experience this duality, because otherwise we don't grow ourselves as individuals, And I guess that's for where we come in with what me and Corin do, obviously with our business mission consciousness. We've built an amazing online community from people around the world. I was actually running a call tonight, like I do every Wednesday. We've got beautiful people from Canada on it. It's great to actually have that level of people from around the world now come part of that. And we were actually saying today, like, is anybody actually bothered about all this World War III stuff? And they're like, no. What they're all on, joking, because they're doing so much work on themselves, they're not paying attention to all the fear and the news and stuff like that. They can see it. They can see what it's all part of. They all know, the people in our community, that this is all part of a worldwide military operation, and it's good for them to have me share, obviously, all the stuff that you guys put out, so they can see what's going on in America. But obviously, they're living what's happening in the UK and Europe as well. So they're seeing the multifaceted sort of awakenings within like each part of the world, which is phenomenal. And I personally don't think we'll have like this 10 days of darkness EBS as such. It's got to be very much a comms breakdown, an internet breakdown, and things like that. For me, I feel that the 10 days of darkness that we've all heard about for so long is very much all the souls out there who aren't quite there yet are going to get, it's almost like a hand grenade going off in their head, which will present a 10 days of dark night of the soul, which, for those of you who have ever had one, know what it's like. You know what I mean? It's literally just like that. But at the end of it, like, you're so much more receptive to truth, receiving truth, speaking truth. It doesn't make sense to me. I do think that there will be shown optics as in like all these criminals basically lined up to show who they are. But like the deep, dark depths of it, they'll be down to like those individuals and the collective consciousness to like actually discover that truth themselves, like to what resonates with them. Because it doesn't make sense to me to sit there for like an 8-hour looping video for someone external again to show you what is the truth. That's a part of this awakening, is you truly know what's true to you in your reality, right? So I feel that's around the corner, so the whole EBS thing, yes, but I think it's going to activate like a dark night of the soul for millions of people around the world, which is a good thing, because that's what so many of us have been waiting for. Do you know what I mean? These people just going like, oh, right, okay, yeah, I get it now. Rather than having to sit there watching a movie, because we're already freaking in one if you ain't worked it out. So it's about helping people along with that journey, helping people like understand who they truly are, and that's what we focus so much of our attention on. So whether it's you come to a retreat, a plant medicine retreat with us, or you're in this part of the world and you want to come to our land and this amazing place with so much history, or just connect with us sort of like on a one-to-one basis. That's what we're really focusing on right now, like really raising this level of consciousness to create a collective, healthy, vibrant, bliss, well-being, because that's how powerful we are. So it's taking people to those levels. So your reality is going to be a reflection of that. And that's where I see the world going. The world is collectively creating that consciousness to collapse all this stuff. And we always knew it was always going to have to come from humans, right? No one's stepping in for us. And that's why we're seeing people in the UK collapsing in these councils and collapsing the systems, collapsing the council taxes, collapsing all of it. So that's a real positive sign of where we're at right now and around the world. So yeah, reach out. We always hold great space wherever we are, and just keep connected and finding your tribe. That's my best bit of advice right now.
Outstanding, mate. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Dramatic pause at the end of pretense. And then DJ, you're still
millennial pause. That's what I call
the new country album, right? And when do you guys anticipate wrapping up on that? And everybody can go to RailTrap1776.com.
Oh yeah, well, it's crazy that I got to invite a bunch of friends to the studio again and let them see what real like Session A union musicians look like. The guys who play on all the number one hits and number one 20s through the years. We track 14 songs in a day, and they're all, that's that. It really, both my friends are still like just texting, going, "I can't believe what I witnessed." I mean, these guys are world class and the top guys on the, on the whole genre. But so 14 songs. So I start on July 1st and the 2nd. Matter of fact, you and I will be on our next podcast on one of those days, and I'll be in the studio. So I'll have the computer out on the floor in the iconic
live from the studio. We're broadcasting live. That's great.
So I'm recording some songs that day. It'll be like probably 6 vocals that we'll get done, and he'll start mixing those. Well, what's crazy about it is we did 14 on this album. He still has 7 songs from my last album that he's still mixing because right now it's a singles game. You just keep doing. So you don't put an album out unless you're like super in the controlled world of country music, not the uncontrolled and the awakened country music fans. So. But I'm pumped about it because 11 of these I solo wrote. There was one that I couldn't. I don't know. I'd been writing on it for so long that I sent it over to a buddy of mine who's a big hit songwriter, and I said, if you finish this, I'll cut it on recording day. He said, when are you recording? I said, next week. So he was, of course, I knew he would pop right in. He did. He shot me back in like 20 minutes. And he had it ready, but this guy wrote 5 #1 hits alone for George Strait. He wrote two of those solo. So like Love Without End Amen and Baby Blue, he wrote those by himself. So big writer. And another big buddy of mine, Jack Williams, who's had songs. A lot of the followers out there are rock and roll fans, so they're not all country. But Jack Williams wrote a big hit for Greg Allman, the Allman Brothers, Uriah Heep, Blackfoot. Then he jumped over to country like the Oak Ridge Boys and some of the real old school country. And so we wrote one together called About Us Veterans. Another veteran song that veteran and life, we combined it together. So it's a great album, and looking forward to putting it out. So you'll just be seeing me post it here and there on my platforms as we get them. So.
Did you get AJ to pose for the cover, all covered in coconut oil?
I mean, he might need to.
Cup of tea.
That might work. That might actually work.
that is going to sell to One Dynamic.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. The ladies are going to fling the panties at you and buy that album for you.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting you say that. I'm just about to release my 4th meditation album. It's not a Billboard, but it's not a Billboard album, but it's yeah.
Well,
it's called the baby oil and all the plants and everything you need.
Exactly.
We do this cross collaboration, and you just might be.
Derek, I would. Yeah. I will have to get. I'll have to get you to send my brother, who's UK Special Forces, a signed album because he's a huge country fan. And well, funny enough, my brother and his unit are in the United States at the minute. I'll leave that with people's imagination. Why?
Mm-hmm. Now, actually,
you guys are overwhelming the people. I think it'll be with the imagery of your shirts off and that. I don't know if they can handle this.
I was surfing with my shirt off yesterday. I want people to tune into the distinction that was made there. AJ's brother is active duty UK Special Forces. Now in North America, Canada, the US military, there's a difference between SF and Special Operations, and the UK kind of is synonymous. So in the classification of Canada, the US, his brother is Special Operations, and he's active duty in the United States right now with his unit. And AJ's going to leave it hang there. And so God bless everybody who has served, the families of service members, and those who still are serving. And that extends to good law enforcement, benevolent law enforcement, and first responders as well. Thank you all across the planet from the bottom of my heart and the Bling Buddha. Brian Red Pills was 9 mil with the Punisher staff too on his left breast, symbolizing Save the Children. That's what it's all about as far as I'm concerned for this show. So, gentlemen, look forward to having you on next time. Maybe AJ, I know it's late. It's like 12 a.m. there there. Thanks for staying up and being on here live with everybody across the planet. Thank you for the hundreds of people watching live now, the dozens and dozens who are continuing to contribute in the chat and share with each other. We truly appreciate that. Stay tuned for these great messages from Deputy Commander, our retired Colonel Chuck Sellers and his wife. If you know anybody in pain, need some deep healing, well, hey, take a look at this picture of Scott McKay, Derek, myself, Colonel Sellers, retired U.S. Army Delta Force Deputy Commander, who went in and served from Beirut all the way through Afghan and Iraq wars, and his lovely wife, Michelle Sellers. And we'll see you gentlemen later.
All right, guys. That is the end of that program. I think that's all I got for you all tonight. You can, of course, find Derek Johnson on Rumble under Derek Johnson, or on Telegram. It's Rattletrap1776, folks. So, yeah. My bunnies didn't make it. Kind of sucks. I feel like I failed that mission. I will be back on tomorrow. We'll see what's happening this weekend. General Flynn and all these other people kept giving us sort of a countdown on events, and I wonder if we've kind of hit the mark there. So maybe it'll be an interesting weekend. I don't know. Don't know if that's necessarily a good thing in the way of the destruction that's happening, but I think it'll be over soon enough. I don't think this is going to roll on forever. Either way, we'll keep watching and seeing. I'm out, guys. I'm out for the night. I really appreciate you guys hanging out and everything, and God bless you all. I will see you tomorrow. Take care, folks. Love you.